Class systems in RPG games make no sense. Why wouldn't a knight or rogue use magic? Well, sometimes they come up with something, like some systems have this allergy to steel, where supposedly steel or iron in general interferes with magic, so you can't. I mean, this is really just for balance. It may not make a lot of sense, but it's sensical for gameplay purposes because you can't be good at everything. And I think that's kind of the main logic. In some systems, you can do a hybrid, but they're not going to be anywhere near as good at each individual thing. If you think about it, the more time you spend practicing your sword skills or your weapon skills in general, the more time you spend practicing martial arts, the less time you can spend sitting in your mage's tower over some dusty books, you know? It's like you can't get a PhD while at the same time becoming a world-class martial artist. Unless you stop sleeping altogether, and then your recovery is no longer existent. So, you know, it makes certain sense. I can go with that. It's not really a problem. Like, you could just give limited skill points and let players decide. I'd actually prefer when you're able to decide. Why is this still peaking? When you're able to freely decide how you want to spend the points. Like, if you have the skill points, then by all means, do weapon proficiencies and magic proficiency as well, because, you know, why not? You know, excluding certain classes from doing certain things or wearing certain types of armor, I don't really like that, or armor and weapons and all that. If the character has learned it, if you have invested skill points in it, you should be able to use it. That's how I see it in general. Fairies with razor blades? No, I have not been able to watch much lately. Just no time. So I have no idea what chat or anybody else does currently. I am completely uninformed. What do you think of Joe Rogan? I don't know enough about him to have an informed opinion. I've accidentally stumbled upon something somebody said, quote, basically. Somebody else said, he said this, or he did that. That's all I got. I've never really watched his podcasts or anything, so I have no clue. What? The Discord is... again? Here, let me fix that. For some reason lately, Discord has been randomly unassigning people's roles. Just a few people for some reason. But the same ones over and over again. At least Angry Clown has that hap. What the fuck again? What are you doing, Patreon? What, Discord? It's probably not Patreon, it's probably Discord. Sorry, man. I'll have to reassign you again. I don't know why that keeps happening. I manually assign the role, and it's just either Discord or Patreon decides to just remove that again after a while. Why does it always happen to you? Why does it hate you? I mean, there's a few other people with unassigned roles, but I think most of them have canceled their pledges, so that should be... As I regularly go through the list and check, but for some reason it hates you. Even though he is an active patron and everything, but can I... Can I do anything about that? You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna assign you moderator role now, just to make up for that annoyance. And because I'm pretty confident that you can handle it I mean, you don't have to actually do any moderating if you don't want, but yeah, I've talked to you on a number of occasions, and you seem to have your shit together, so you can be trusted with moderator rights. So hopefully next time it's unassigned again, you should be okay. You should be good to go because your moderator role should not be unassigned, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna jump into the thing. The thing. He's gonna ban everyone, yeah. Totally. He will wreck all your shit. Okay, let me just jump on the Patreon. No, Discord. Yeah, Patreon, Discord. It's both. Desktop audio is on. Okay. Discord duelists. There we go. I have arrived, peasants. No, wait, actually, you're not the peasants. You're the elite. How's it going? I can't hear anybody for some reason. Uh-oh. That ain't good. Why don't... Oh, wait a moment. Has my sound device been...
Hang on.
Switched?
I need to get my He-Man sword.
Bullshit. Give me a moment. There we go. Now I should be able to hear things. It's no longer using my microphone speaker. Why on earth does my microphone have speakers, supposedly, that can be used? What's up?
Greetings.
How are all you doing? Hopefully enjoying your Saturday. If you have such a thing. They have a suggestion on a good Steel Viking / Migration era training sword. That's a good question.
Getting ready for a house party.
A lot of them. House party?
Oh, nice.
That is a good... I mean, Albion has some practice swords. They have
Am I coming through all right?
Yes, I can hear you. Uh-oh. I don't know what's... It seemed okay. Although I don't really know why there is no indication. Usually you have a little indicator around the user picture when somebody's speaking. I'm not seeing that when I'm speaking myself. I don't know what's... Can you guys actually hear me?
Hello.
No? You can't?
Not through the Discord.
No? Damn. Let me see. My input device... No, wait. Oh, there we go. That should have fixed it. Can you hear me now through the Discord?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
I really hate whenever I plug something in and every single audio device is suddenly switched to something else, and not even the thing that I plugged in necessarily. It just scrambles everything.
I had no mouth and I needed to scream.
Yes. So now it's actually working properly, it seems. All right then. So, where were we? Oh yeah, training or practice Viking swords. So Albion has a few in their Squire line. Do they actually have one in their Maestro line? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I thought it was pronounced Maestro.
Maestro, yeah, that could be. I think Maestro is the Italian pronunciation.
Oh, yeah,
Maestro.
gotcha.
Yeah, and Maestro is a musical conductor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, in that line, the Maestro or whatever line, they don't have Viking swords. They just have it in the Squire line, I think.
What is a Maestro?
I don't know.
I think it's something for master.
Yeah, I think it's just the Italian word for master.
Well, yeah, like maestro, yeah, is the Italian word for like music master. They're the ones that handle all of the instruments and music and stuff during arias.
Mm. Okay, so there's that. Does Purple Heart Armory? I think they may have practice swords now. I mean, they have plenty, but I mean, practice Viking swords. They may have them. Let's see.
Couldn't you just buy a Del 10 Viking sword and make it like extra blunt?
Extra blunt, blunter than usual.
I mean, they're pretty damn blunt out of the box.
Yeah, they do come very blunt as it is. Let's see. European martial arts. Isn't it? Yeah, ancient Viking. There we go. I mean, they have at the very least. Oh yeah, there we go. They do have some steel ones too now. I knew they had some synthetics. I don't really know about these though. I haven't tried them, so I can't really tell you for sure. I know that the synthetics work just fine, and they're nice and affordable. Not sure about the steel ones. And Cult of Athena should also have a few. Let's see here. Dark Age. Yeah, the Pika. What could possibly go wrong with that? Let's see.
Speaking of training stuff, Shad made some really good points about foam training swords in his video.
Okay, what did you say?
How they get a lot of bad rap among HEMA practitioners about, it's foam, it's not a good analog and everything. But there are a lot of instructors who say they actually make a better analog than a lot of blunt steel or like composite material swords, because foam swords bind like real swords would. They've got some bite to them.
Yes, I would agree with that. However, I think that's the only aspect where they're usable at all, because I mean, you have that they do bite. You have a good bind, just like with sharp, although they stick a little more than even sharp edges do. And the thing is, you have that, and then it's offset by the fact that they are super light and not very, not balanced quite the same. Well, some of them can be fairly close, but the main issue is they bounce like crazy. Like if the two blades meet, they just go bloop, and that's not how steel swords act at all.
I mean, like some of the higher quality ones I've seen, the foam is a different composite and doesn't have as much of that spring to it. So the main thing he talks about is, they're very light. They're not good for like getting used to the weight of a sword and things like, but they're a good cheap way for someone just starting to get into it without having to buy a lot of expensive protective equipment.
That I agree with, yeah.
And they're good for practicing like form and technique for muscle memory and stuff like that, especially if you don't want to like hit something if you have limited space.
Or, and I'm just putting this out there, you could join Arma where we don't use protect.
Yes, or you can be as obscenely insane as the guys at Holmgang, where they practice with sharp swords and throw these little tippy taps so that they don't completely murder each other, and just
That's gonna be a no from me.
Yes, that's the biggest no I can imagine with regards to quote unquote HEMA practice. What they do is not actually HEMA, but
the size of those lacerations when they open up, no.
Yep.
I put axes in my leg. I don't need to see more of that.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just ridiculous in every way.
If you don't train with a real weapon, you're not really learning how to.
You're such a pussy for using all the protective gear. Yeah, well, what we do here, we just lightly touch each other with the swords, because that's proper martial arts.
9. We have to use sharp swords in the first blood. Only proper German fencing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, the logic behind not using protective gear is people get really into it when they use protective gear, and before the gear got better in the early days when you just had hockey gloves and stuff, people would break their hands all the time. So they decided that if you didn't use protective gear, you would be more worried about hurting your partner, and so you wouldn't hit as hard, or you would have more control whenever you started getting into it instead of just flailing about.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is this: if you're so mentally deficient that you cannot control your power at all, you just go full ham all the time, then using sharp blades is not exactly the right solution, because you've already proven that you don't have adequate control over what you're doing and you're not being responsible. Then ramping it up to sharp is just escalation, not a solution. As far as I see it.
But what
can
if you're a
follow the
blacksmith?
logic, but
Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying I can follow the logic behind it, the way people reason it, but the risks far outweigh any benefit.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. And also, I mean, this is really the standard issue that you have in any martial arts practice. If somebody goes overboard and just throws overly hard strikes or punches or kicks, or cranks somebody's joints really hard in grappling, things like that, that's not okay. That's never okay. And those people have to be, you have to let them know, hey, you're endangering your training partners here. You have to be more controlled in what you do. And if they don't, then, well, you can't practice with them, quite frankly. Handing them a sharp blade is certainly not the solution here, as far as I'm concerned.
So I was going to say, what if I was a blacksmith, or when I am a blacksmith? So what if a blacksmith gets a sword, though, for sparring training here? They don't really have the strength control, I would say, because they're always trying to hit things hard. And we have really good precision control. So it'd be like just a blacksmith swinging a one-handed sword like a hammer in sparring practice with like full ham.
That would be bad, yeah. I mean, I would expect most blacksmiths to realize that they're not supposed to hit a person as hard as a piece of steel. I would hope. But yeah, I mean, if you really, as a blacksmith, considering the average strength in that profession, if you hit as hard as you could, that would require very good protective gear.
I'm not really qualified to speak on it, especially not to an actual blacksmith, but it would seem to me like you would have more control over power than you give yourself credit for, because I'm pretty sure just wailing away as hard as you can on whatever you're working on is not what you do all the time. Like you want to control your blow to achieve the right shape, the right thickness, when you don't want your metal to stretch out too far.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point.
That's just me.
That's a good point. I mean, from what I've seen, seeing blacksmiths in action live, so to speak, you're not actually supposed to hit as hard as you can. You're supposed to let the hammer do the work and conserve as much energy as you can, because you'll be doing this for hours. I think the only issue is that many blacksmiths may underestimate or misjudge their power, because they are usually pretty strong compared to the average person, so they may not realize how hard they hit, maybe.
Yeah, no, there's a kind of a technique to it. You're not using your full muscular strength, you're more or less using a rhythm to get the most kinetic energy you can out of the hammer. So the hammer is doing the majority of the work. Right. All you're doing is you're lifting your arm up as it bounces off the steel and the anvil to lift it up to the proper height. And then you're just following through with gravity to push it down. Like, that's why crossbeam hammers, if you try to swing them sideways, they're like shit. You can't really get the adequate speed on them to actually hammer anything. They're meant for a downward strike always.
And like I would expect different alloys of steel and different materials like bronze or gold or copper or whatever require different striking force or techniques as well.
Yeah, the softer metals you do have to use muscular. They won't bounce enough. But
Okay.
you're usually just controlling them. You're usually leaning over. You got your hand choked up towards the hammerhead, and you're just kind of lightly hitting it.
So honestly, I would say a blacksmith has just as much, if not more, control over their muscular power than a typical weapon practitioner.
Well, I was kind of thinking like you use the sword, and when it bounces off your opponent, you keep just kinetic energying it. I don't know. I just think it'd be funny to watch.
Most blacksmiths knew how to use a weapon, I thought.
We do. I'm just doing a hypothetical joke.
Let's see. There's a question. Are there historical axe hammers a la Stormbreaker? Well, you have plenty of pole hammers and war hammers that have... Well, I mean, usually they have a spike as opposed to a hammer, but some axes actually have at least a pole on the other side that you can use as a hammer. And I've occasionally seen axes with like a fully formed hammer too. Not as common though.
A lot of halberds have an axe head and a hammer head.
Yeah, if you count the pole axe, the kind of meat tenderizer hammer, then that's one of the best examples. Yeah, I should probably show it while talking about it. Let's see. So
I have seen like wood axes, like camping tool axes or hatchets that have a hammerhead on the opposing end for like batoning and hammering in tent stakes and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know if those are like an ancient concept or if they're recent.
If I remember right, some of those designs come from tomahawks with a bowl shape, and they just adapted them to be hammerheads.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, in terms of medieval weapons, this would be the best example of poleaxe. Is kind of the clearest example of a fully formed hammer with an axe. So yeah, there are a number of examples.
I mean, it's not like it doesn't make sense or wouldn't be practical. I mean, you'd have both chopping and crushing power, and that would be a pretty devastating weapon, especially against all.
Yep. Okay, what else is going on in the chat? Can you check out this cool Viking sword? I can. Let's see. What is it? Is it actually cool? Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Can't argue with that. Oh wait, I should actually show it. There we go.
Your swords are bad. You should feel bad.
$6,500? Whoa.
Say that again?
6,500?
Jesus Christ.
Ouch.
I mean, that's one expensive wall hanger.
It's bronze guard. I would have, at this price, I would have frankly expected gold or gold inlaid.
That shit better
gold
be
plated.
made of diamonds like in Minecraft or something.
That is, I mean, that, wow.
Like, that's a genuine wall hanger?
I hope not.
I mean, yeah, I would hope it's meant to be like...
No, it is.
At least can be used as a real sword.
It looks like it is the real deal, but whoa, that is real. I mean, that makes Temple look affordable.
I was about to say, like, for that price, it better have, like, a micron razor edge and be able to, like, cut it in between dimensions or something.
Is that the Angel Sword Etsy page?
No, it's Hopkins Forge. I have not heard of that.
It better be glorious Nippon steel folded 20,000 times.
Yes, I mean it is pattern welded, but I mean, damn, that's one hell of a price tag.
I was about you say it's pattern welded. That that should be actual real like Damascus wootz steel for that.
Yeah,
it should have carbon nanotubes and everything.
I have to say, looking at it just by the pictures, I would have expected it to be maybe 650, like 1 0 less. But 6,500? Ow. Well then,
I'm hoping that's just a typo or something.
I mean that would be a fatal typo if that's the actual price. I mean, that's what you have to pay in order to add it to your cart. So,
Yeah, but decimal points are hard though.
yeah. Okay.
Don't make fun of my dyscalculia.
Okay, Brad asks, have you ever thought about joining the military? And I have not, personally. I've always been kind of skeptical toward authority, let's put it that way. Like not in the obsessive sense of must disobey anything just out of principle, but I don't think I would fit in there at all.
I respect and appreciate the military and
Oh, yeah.
law enforcement, but
Absolutely.
I don't have the disposition to actually participate in it.
Yeah, same here. I very much do respect that. These people bring a lot of sacrifices, and yeah, you have to respect that, but it's not for me. Scottish Highland Dirk. What? It's no question or anything, it's just Dirk. Okay.
You what, mate?
You what, mate? I'll dirk you, I swear, me mum. So I'm just gonna show some. No, wait. Not just random people named Dirk. There are pictures of Dirks. Does that satisfy you? I don't know what to do with this. I'm assuming this is one of those what's your opinion on this kind of questions, which I always find kind of difficult to work with because, like, what am I supposed to say? I mean, I like it, I dislike it, something. Thoughts.
I think people overestimate the amount of information you actually like have memorized or something.
Yeah,
And you're
that may
supposed
be
to
it.
like these long, concise opinions on.
Yes, I can't go into, okay, so I'm going to give you a 30-minute lecture on the history of this item now. I can't do that.
I mean,
The Scottish dirk was originally adapted from the bullock's dagger. Over time, it became to be having a palm swell as it lost the balls of the bullock's dagger. It then also
Exactly.
became single-edged and was worn as ceremonial dress in later to the 18th century in Scotland.
There you go.
it's
Yeah.
just a nice knife that works really well.
Yeah, but she had a little too much balls to her, so we cut her off.
I use it as a toothpick.
It sure is one hell of a dagger. It's a huge one. Yeah, so, yeah, it's impressive. I'll say that.
Like pushing the limits of what can politely be called a dagger
Yes.
before it just becomes a short sword.
Yes.
Then again, the Scottish had very large swords in general, so it must be a
Scot-
dagger to them.
The Scottish were just very large in general, even though their country isn't.
So you mean it's not actually the dagger of compensation?
What would the Scottish need to compensate for?
The size of their country?
Yes, that.
That's about the only thing I could think of, which is probably why they were invading people.
How much would World War One/World War II bayonets with their age be?
Expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, there are a number of really cheap bayonets from that time. Like, for example, you basically Mosin bayonets they throw at you.
Yeah.
They're dirt cheap.
Yeah,
Right.
like I was looking at a surplus store in Canada for just old guns, and there's like 20 Mosin Nagants in there with Hexan round receivers, and they almost all have bayonets.
Mm-hmm.
The Mosin Nagant was the Model T of bolt-action rifle.
Yeah, so it depends. I mean, I've seen a lot of cheap bayonets from that time, but there are also some that are super rare and extremely expensive and everything. It really depends on what you're looking at in particular. If it's one of the ones that were mass issued, then yeah, they're going to be fairly cheap. Also, depending on condition, etc., etc.
I still can't get over that a Canadian company is the chief supplier of bayonets and utility knives to the U.S. military.
Mm-hmm.
Is there actually?
Ontario Knife Company.
Oh yeah, but they're basically American. They're like
Yeah,
right
at
on the
this
border.
point, as far as I know, they are now based in the U.S., but they
Yeah.
started out here.
The Cajuns are also from Canada.
We don't talk about them. It's funny because I'm related to a Cajun, but
Oh, nice.
I can't remember the full history. I think they were Métis or something, and the British, being British, decided to put them down in Louisiana.
I was listening to the Dollop podcast, and they were talking about it. They were called the Acadians, and they were French settlers who said, I can't remember what province they settled in, but it was really like inhospitable. And actually, it was exactly like Louisiana. It was an area that was really swampy, but these guys were super ingenuitive, and they diked it off and turned it all into really good farmland. And yeah, basically Britain looked at it and said, wow, they turned that into some great farmland that puts out a lot of crops. We want that. So they set out on this ridiculous decades long campaign of turning these people into pariahs. It's a bullshit story.
I think it was Manitoba, because Manitoba is like all sloughs,
Yeah.
ponds and shit.
I do. Yes, I believe that was it.
Opinion chainsaw from Warhammer, please, not again.
Oh, Jesus.
So many times. Okay, so the issue that I see, to sum it up again, is chainsaws. For one, you have the problem with how do you power it. So, if in case of battery powered, with current battery technology, that's either really large and heavy and bulky or really underpowered and runs out of juice very quickly. Since it's sci-fi, they may have something better if they have like quantum batteries or who knows what. Then they wouldn't be as huge, but there's still got to be a motor in there of some sort, and it makes it super large and bulky and unwieldy. That's the one issue, and the other is that this stuff is actually not good against clothing at all because it gets stuck, it stalls out the motor and all that. There's a bunch of issues with that. So I mean, with sci-fi technology, maybe you could make it work one way or another, but it just doesn't seem very practical.
I've put some of my mechanical engineering and fabrication experience to that question before, and it's not that it's implausible, because there are small like internal combustion engines that would have enough power, and you could make a compact fuel supply for them and everything, and it would work. And there are chainsaws that are specially built to be used in ways that chainsaws were never meant to, like demolition saws that fire departments and construction companies use. They have larger chains with better, like carbide titanium teeth. They're designed to cut through wood, metal, plaster, stone, anything that they hit. If you made one that was similar to that with a smaller engine that you could lift, and I mean, Space Marines are supposed to be superhuman anyway, so they wouldn't have a problem lifting it up if it was heavy. But there's again the problem of clothing and fabric, like you were mentioning. Now, in context, it probably wouldn't become as much of an issue, because if they're fighting other Space Marines, then the only clothing they're dealing with is the outer armor shell, because Space Marines don't wear clothes. If they're fighting Tyranids don't wear clothes either, so it's just flesh and bone they have to deal with. That's fine. The only place it might become a big problem is like the orcs, because orcs do wear clothing. But again, I mean, maybe you could put like a little shredder device at the mouth of the chain guide, to like tear apart clothing and keep it from getting into the inner workings. I don't know, but a big thing is heat. You have to have a really efficient heat exchange to keep the engine from overworking, because it's going to be sawing through a lot of resistant stuff. You have to have a way to keep like viscera and stuff from clogging the workings. It's just, there's like you could make it work for maybe 5 minutes and then it would be useless.
And then also there's the problem of the logistics of actually fighting with it, so to speak, because normally if you have, against armor, you probably have some sort of blunt impact, like probably an extra sturdy, large, heavy warhammer of sorts adapted for use against this kind of high-tech armor. You strike with it once and it does the damage instantly, whereas with a chain weapon of some sort, you'd just be standing there sawing for a while. So during that time, you're completely vulnerable to attacks from that opponent and others. Like you just be standing there. I don't think that's really very effective.
So like it wouldn't bother me so much too, because I've seen chain swords that I can suspend my disbelief in like anime and stuff, that I can look at and I'm like, okay, I could see how, like I can suspend my disbelief and say that works. But the Warhammer 40K chain sword is just this big lumpy block of steel, like a box with tiny little teeth sticking out of one side. Like the entire chain isn't exposed like a proper chainsaw. It's just this big box of metal with little teeth sticking out one end. And the video games, Space Marine, the action game where it's a third person perspective. Like there's a move he does with the chainsword where he's like stabbing them with it repeatedly, and I'm like, no, it's a big blunt box of steel. You can't just ram it through something like that like it's an actual sword, you idiot.
But maybe Space Marines can. They're very strong.
I guess so. Nothing is impossible in the name of the Emperor.
Hammers make great stabbing implements when you wear 5,000 pounds of steel.
I guess so.
Would it be hilarious if they just walked up to somebody, just placed the blade of the chainsaw against them, somebody whips out this huge mallet and just starts to pound it in like a steak, like it's a 2-man job.
The sad part is that would actually fit within Warhammer 40K law.
Yeah, I kind of would. But would that be more of an orc thing to do? Maybe. But there wouldn't be a chain thing. It would just be literally just a giant spike.
It's just honestly, like, if you want to answer the question of, oh, how realistic or practical is Warhammer 40K, you need to have a button that lets you throw up that meme image of the Commandant driving the Beyblade tank, where he's going, drive me closer, I want to hit them with my sword.
That's probably my favorite Warhammer meme. Okay, here's a
fall to the wrath of the glorious Baneblade.
Here's a question that I would not normally answer, but it's a super chat. Do you think Islam will take over the world? In short, no. Just give it some time. God. It'll go the way of other religions. It will become less radical. The amount of atheists and agnostics will increase in that community, and that's going to be the end of it. So, yeah.
If Catholicism didn't work, what's Islam?
It's still in a more extreme phase, but it'll become more mellow, I'm sure. I mean, it already has compared to a while ago. Anyway.
Thankfully.
Yeah. I mean, it's just what I always find weird is with any kind of cultural influence like that, people are always worried that, oh, this non-Western influence is going to take over and just completely transform Western society. They don't realize that it goes both ways. Western society also transforms these cultures and makes them more similar to the West and more moderate, etc. It's been happening the entire time. So
unless you're the First Nations, you get assimilated.
yeah,
you could make the argument though that like you said, being exposed to other religions and other cultures has done a lot to help reduce the extremism of Islam.
I mean, there's always going to be fluctuations. I mean, currently, Western culture also has a radicalization movement to it, alt-right and all that. And I mean, it's not that the left isn't becoming more radical. Like, there's definitely some radicalization going on right now, but I'm hoping that eventually things will return to a little more rational discourse, hopefully, rather than just political mudslinging and excessive headbutting and all that, because currently no progress is being made. People just fighting the opposition just for the sake of fighting the opposition, it seems. But hopefully it'll get better.
You have a lot more faith in people.
I'm trying to stay halfway optimistic. There's definitely part of my mind that goes, yeah, we're fucked. It's just going to get worse and worse.
The 20th Crusade is upon us.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you though. You gotta believe in people and try to give them the benefit of the doubt whenever possible.
It becomes difficult at times, but yeah, gotta try.
It does.
What is better in your opinion, single-edged or double-edged? As far as I'm concerned, double-edged, just because it gives you more options in a fight, and there's this really. Well, I shouldn't say there's no good reasons for single-edged. I mean, there are some. You can do different kinds of blade geometry, and it does have some benefits, no doubt. But
I'm gonna. I hate to point out your hypocrisy, but one of your favorite swords is a single-edged blade. So.
Oh yeah, I know. I would actually prefer if it was double-edged.
Mr. Krieg's messer.
There's that. I mean, if I have to choose, like if I could for the rest of my life choose to be able to own and use only single-edged versus only double-edged, I would definitely pick double-edged. But there's plenty of excellent single-edged swords, so whatever.
We need Blargety here so he can make a meme of you answering that question while holding a Kriegsmesser. It's like, yes. I prefer double-edged, says the guy holding a single-edged sword.
Yes. And then make a companion meme where I hold the Gallo glass and talk about how awesome single-edged swords are.
Right.
Yes. Electric guitar as a weapon. You're really working on coming up with the most absurd questions today, aren't you? Okay, that's not fair, actually. There were some good questions, too. I'm just being harsh now.
Someone's been watching Adventure Time.
Yes. I mean, basically, we've already said that the chain sword would be usable for like 5 minutes or whatever, and I guess the same can be said for a guitar. You could deliver a couple of strikes with it, and then it's broken. That's it.
I guess if we're talking about a guitar that is also made to be a weapon, you kind of run into that typical combination problem where it's either going to be halfway decent at one thing and terrible at the other. So you're either going to have a really good guitar that's a poor weapon, or a decent weapon that's a terrible guitar.
Yeah, exactly. What would a scabbard for? Sorry, go ahead.
So like Brutal Legend, then that's a game where all the guitars are axes.
Yep.
No, that's the thing about Brutal Legend though, is you actually have a proper melee weapon, and the guitar is like your magic stuff. You don't actually hit stuff with the guitar.
Right. It was a question, what would a scabbard for a sword with a bulky point look like? I'm assuming you mean one that tapers a lot and gets wider toward the point. I'm assuming you don't mean thicker, because that would be weird. It's usually done by cutting a slot into the scabbard, so it's wide at the base, and at the base it's closed, and then further up, when it narrows, it's open on the side, so you can actually get the wider point in there, and it'll still hold it on. Sometimes there are straps that you can close to hold it in more securely. So yeah, it's not that hard to do.
How do you feel about like the times when a weapon is hung from the belt, like with just a loop, and the blade is like exposed without a full scabbard? Or
I'm not a fan of that at all, because that basically defeats the purpose of a scabbard. I mean, you want to protect it from the elements. You want to protect yourself from the edge. You want to protect the edge from damage, etc. None of that is happening. So you bump into things. It'll be exposed to the weather, etc. It's just, I mean, you can, even with an axe, I wouldn't do that. I would still want a sheath covering at least the edge when tugging into the belt. Right. So just a loop is for a sword. Don't like it.
I feel like that's one of those things that probably didn't actually happen. It might even just be like fabrication by movies and video games.
I think so. Yeah, I think these belt frogs and sword loops and all that. I think that's just a modern invention. I don't think. I mean, to be fair, if it existed, there wouldn't really be any evidence, because just a leather loop, what are the chances of that being preserved? Very, very low. But I doubt it, and I've never seen it in historical depictions. It's usually with a scabbard.
And I think the stupidest example of it that I've seen is the one the Draugr use in Skyrim, because one, it's a metal ring. Like, why would you want to stick your sword blade through a metal ring that could damage the edge? And also, the shape of the swords the Draugr use don't fit through the ring.
Yeah.
Draugr don't care. Draugr only protect Dragon Lord.
Have you seen the edge geometry on those things? Those are axe blades.
Yeah.
So they just jam it in there so hard it expands the ring to conform to the sword.
They're taking a lot of liberties with clipping in that situation.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's
the Draugr special power is no clip.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be fantastic. Just shove that in, and just you hear the grinding as the edge is being worn down by the metal ring.
Right.
I mean, to be fair, they use very old swords, so they probably don't have much of an edge left to begin with. So
yeah, they're basically just big metal clubs.
But at the same time, you would think that this is something that they wore when they were alive, right? Otherwise, why would they have it? So
yeah, and like you see the ancient Nords using those kinds of weapons, like in the flashback battle scene with Alduin.
Right, yeah. So that's a little bit odd.
It's just bad. Yeah. The design is bad.
That's also something that a few people threw at me when I talked shit about the Skyrim weapons. Like, oh, the Draugr sword, it's ancient, and that's why it's old and rust, etc. Well, that wouldn't completely change the shape of it. I mean, if it's that rust eaten that the entire outline of the thing changes and the entire shape changes, then that's not going to be good for use anymore. That's going to just crumble and fall apart when you hit something, if it's that excessive.
That entire premise is defeated by the idea that you can forge Nord hero weapons, which are the untarnished ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? Exactly. They still look the same.
Slightly shinier.
That's just the shape that they have.
And yes, people watching, we realize we're talking about a game where you can literally make swords and armor out of fucking ice.
Yes. But you could still nitpick for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Triple edge beats double edge every time.
It was banned by the United Nations for a reason.
Yeah, technically there is sort of triple edged, the spike design, which is triangular and cross section. You can't really call
Yeah.
that edges because they are not really. I mean, they're slightly sharp-ish maybe, but it's really more corners than edges.
I was about to say that's more of a that's more of a stabbing, thrusting thing than it is
Mm-hmm.
cutting.
Yeah.
And like the only time I've ever dealt with triangular like blade shape geometry is like stage weapons, like for
Mm-hmm.
acting out a play, because they're purposely designed with that shape. Because when you swing it through the air really fast, you get that whoosh sound.
Mm-hmm.
We could expand the edges out further and further from the core, so they have like actual edges, but they're still stabby.
Mm-hmm.
But then you basically just get a flanged mace with really big flanges and edges on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, flange maces were reported as sharp, like super sharp sometimes, so it does
Yeah.
work.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Opinion on the look of the World War II German helmet. I think it's okay. I don't have
Mm.
particularly strong feelings on it. It looks pretty decent, I would say. Let me
I
just bring it
mean,
up.
they weren't they weren't using the little like the spikes and stuff to
Yes,
denote rank
the
anymore. That was World
Pickelhaube.
War One. Yeah, and like if they're thinking of that kind of helmet, that was World War One, and
Mm-hmm.
only officers wore that spiked helmet.
Yep.
Ah, I've
So,
been misled all this time.
and they come in some. There's some variations. Some are kind of more drawn out than others. But overall, I mean, I can't say I'm a fan of any modern helmets, really, be it World Wars or later. They're very simple affairs, and that's
They're
all they
all
need to
pretty
be.
ugly too.
They're not exactly designed with aesthetics in mind. I am just, not really a fan of them. But I mean, again, they're okay. That's basically it.
There's a surprising amount of overlap in people's minds with World War One and World War Two era Germany. Like things like they had airships in World War One.
Yeah.
The whole Iron Cross thing, the German cross, that's from World War One,
Hmm.
and like again like the spiked helmets and everything. But that was back when the aristocracy was still a thing in Germany and played a
Everybody just
big
needs
part
to
in
take a week.
military rank.
Sorry. Everybody just needs to take a week and watch the YouTube channel The Great War.
Yes,
Hmm.
that's a fantastic channel.
Great who?
Let's see what's the next one. Oh, by
The
the
Great War.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought Quinn had asked The Great Who, and I said The Great
Yeah.
War.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Uh, by the way,
Greatest war.
thank you, Brad. You're really dominating the super chat here. Lots of good support thrown at the channel. I appreciate that.
Yes.
And Sean is back too. Please compare Mordhau arms versus historical gear.
Mordhau again.
Mordhau!
Well, how
From what I've
You're gonna
seen,
get crucified for not playing that game.
yeah, pretty much. From what and the funny thing is, some people are like, why can't you just play it? What can you be so busy with? It's called work, you basement dwelling dweeb.
careful,
It was kind
you've
of funny.
offended Blargany.
Yeah, no offense, Blargy. Anyway, what was it? So the thing is, when looking at the gear in the game so far, from what I've seen, the stuff seems historically accurate, at least overall. Again, I haven't plucked it apart. I haven't looked at it in detail, but just kind of first glance, looks pretty accurate. It's just the combination that's ahistorical. So you have a bunch of things from different centuries that are thrown together, but the individual designs seem pretty reasonable. Have you ever fired the German MG 42 machine gun? No, I have not. That would be a lot of fun, I think. But there's actually a number of 22 versions of German rifles and submachine guns, which would be kind of neat. And the funny thing is, belt-fed machine guns that are converted to semi-auto fire only are actually fully legal in Canada and are even unrestricted. If they weren't so expensive, I could totally get one.
What?
Yep. Good stuff.
That just feels dangerous, considering how easy it'd be to take it back to what it was before.
Yeah, well, it's supposedly modified in such a way that does not allow you to reconvert it again. I don't know how that works, but...
I guess.
Whereas here in America, you can buy a kit to turn 2 AR-15s into a crank-operated machine.
Crank-operated? Wow.
Yes, I'm not even kidding. That's a thing.
It's not illegal, it's a crank.
Oh yeah, I remember a while ago I also saw a video of a 22 Gatling, like an actual historical Gatling reproduction. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
What is your opinion on sword spears? I haven't really looked particular into it. I'm assuming you mean the sword staff, as it's called. I think I should actually look at the Swedish word here. That probably gives the most... Yeah, the most results. It's interesting. I mean, it's essentially like a very heavy duty spear, kind of. Except a spear point, you just have basically a sword blade, like a relatively short sword blade with an actual guard, cross guard at the end. So they're pretty interesting. I would like to handle and test one actually at some point. I would assume they're pretty effective. Heavy probably, but should be pretty good.
At the end of the day, it's still a polearm.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with pole arms generally. I mean, you can mess them up too. You can fuck up any design really if you try hard enough, but it's difficult with a pole arm.
So it's kind of like just a really big boar spear, eh?
Yeah, sort of. You can say that.
Except for tridents. Tridents are for pussies.
Yep.
Aquaman's a pussy?
Well, okay. His weapon isn't really even a trident at this point. It's got like 7 tips on it. And I do like Aquaman.
If I had to design a trident, I would just give it 2 short prongs and 1 long one in the middle, so it flips you the bird.
I was going to say that was a military fork, but you added a 3rd one in there.
Yes, it would be a military fork otherwise. Okay, that's one hell of a question. Do you think autistic guys are doomed in dating? The autism spectrum is wide. You have anything from like the worst cases of autistic where people can't even speak and make basically animal noises and bash their heads against walls and like seriously extreme dysfunctional forms, all the way up to fully functional autistic where you literally cannot tell that they have autism. Like, it's
Speaking as an autistic person, yes, we are all doomed.
Okay, I will have to take your word for it then. I mean, I think Asperger's is put in the autism spectrum, which is very high functioning, and I mean it can make social interactions more challenging, but people with Asperger's can learn to deal with that and can learn to become better at reading expressions, or at least kind of approximating an understanding of the finer nuances, and you won't really be able to tell.
Well, I mean, Kara's taken, so we're pretty much all doomed at dating.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to find a girl who is into swords and stuff, well, they exist. I mean, they do exist. In fact,
very hard to find.
In fact, Blood and Iron has a lot of female practitioners here. Actually, I don't know if that's a Vancouver Island thing in particular. We're so hipster that even the girls are interested in swords. I don't know, maybe. They exist, but they're hard to find.
small insight to me because I've been making sharp objects for so long. I think it scares off more people than it actually interests. It's pretty sad.
It is, yeah. And every now and then I see a comment from somebody who somehow found my channel and is super appalled by all the violence. You must be some kind of psycho. And it's like, oh, come on. Don't be such a narrow-minded, judgmental prick. There's no need for it.
Because apparently having an appreciation for the historical and cultural impact, as well as the mechanical and aesthetic designs of warfare implements, and being a violent sociopathic nut job who just wants to like hurt people, are not mutually exclusive, apparently.
Yep. I mean, it's basically like if you saw a car dude or a girl who's really into cars, and you're like, oh, you must be like an obsessive speeder, and then you'll probably run into a crowd of people at some point.
You must be so irresponsible. Oh, you just like loud gas guzzlers. You're killing the environment. You must have so many speeding tickets. Like, no,
Yep.
I just like cars.
Yep.
Get off my ass.
You must have a micro penis.
You like giant trucks with really big suspensions? How dare you? It's not for money at all. It's for your self-gratification.
Actually, that is true. I do get annoyed at guys who just build big trucks and then don't do trucks things.
Oh, yeah.
It's really annoying.
And then they keep their toe mirrors out 24/7 just to show how small their penis really is.
Yes, that type exists for sure. I mean, it's also when I
plated spending. Sorry.
When I see around here in Victoria, when I see a bunch of like huge ass pickup trucks, I'm like, yeah, that's a pointless gas guzzler. What can you possibly use that for in this area here? I mean, further out, like a lot further out, I can see that. But here, or like, if you lived in Vancouver, for example, and drove a big ass pickup, like that would be idiotic. Basically, that's a waste.
They gotta haul around the Ricos.
I mean, unless it's for business or things like that, okay. But for everyday use.
If you have ever even contemplated spending actual money on like truck nuts, know that I want to strangle you with your own feet.
Yes.
I've seen them.
I
Clown,
will say.
I think you just described about 85% of the males living in the American Southeast.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's where I draw the line too. That's where I become judgmental too. When I see truck nuts, I'm like, yeah, you're a douche.
There's been a few times in Lloydminster I've seen that. One time it was just steel as normal. They didn't dangle. The other time they were made like synthetic gel or something. They were like full on dangling around like a pair of ball testicles. Like, what the fuck?
The story behind those things and the two guys that are like fighting over being the truck nuts guy is hilarious.
Oh, that meme. My truck is 25 testicles. Well, my truck now has 28.
Oh man, have you heard about the new Terminator film? There's going to be a new Terminator. I have not actually heard of it. Have you? You guys?
The trailer looks pretty good.
Okay. Who's actually starring? Is Arnie going back to it, or?
I don't think so. He wasn't in the trailer. And he hasn't been in any of the promotional material.
Okay. Terminator Dark Fate. Okay. Uh-oh. Reveals big changes to Terminator universe. Uh-oh. This could go horribly wrong.
Like the last three films?
Yeah. Anytime there's major retconning, it's just, what the fuck you doing?
The Terminator films, I love them, but they hurt my head.
Yeah.
With their convoluted time travel multiverse stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, inconsistent storytelling and plot holes and everything has been with the series right from the start. The first two are already, what the hell? What? Why? None of this makes sense.
It's almost like a struggle against causality that you can never win. They're just constantly repeating time, trying to fix time's problems.
Yeah. But even
And
considering time paradoxes, it's still, like, even if you give them some leeway there, it still is just bizarre. The choices being made, like what Skynet does and everything, I don't know.
and yet those movies still don't get as much guff about it as Avengers Endgame did.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen some complaints about it. I don't know.
Anytime you introduce time travel into something, it immediately becomes so convoluted that I want nothing to do with it ever.
I mean, it depends on how well it's done. For example, I still fondly remember a lot of episodes from Star Trek Voyager, which often did the time, well, not just time travel, but also kind of parallel dimensions, etc. They often did it pretty well and had a philosophical angle. I mean, the entire crew has been basically replaced at least once. Like all of them died, and then the parallel versions just came to that to that Voyager. It's just, whoa, dude, what? Or individual crew members were replaced with their quote unquote copies. It's just, it's some mindfuckery there.
I have only ever seen, read, or heard of one story that had time travel in it that didn't make my brain immediately turn off, and that's Joseph Bobine. It's something French. Aeon Lee.
What was it?
It's a
You
book.
cut off there at the
It's
end.
a
Aeon something?
Aeon Legion. It's a book.
Ah,
Let me look it up. I'll post it.
okay.
What about Back to the Future? They're pretty blunt on all that.
Yeah, well, Back to the Future also has a lot of issues, plot holes, inconsistencies.
Don't become your own father, Marty!
Yeah. Especially the weirdest thing, or one of the weirdest things, is so it's like his dad and his mom at first are not gonna dance, so he starts to slowly fade away, but then his dad changes his mind and it's okay now. Time is like a make in progress. What the hell is this?
That reminds me of, what was it, Looper or Jumper? Whichever one where the guys go back in time and somebody in the past shoots them for the mob, and then eventually they're the people who get shot.
Looper. That's a really good
Yeah.
movie, though.
But there's like the one guy who comes back and doesn't do the thing, or he tries to get away, like the future guy. So they start cutting off limbs from like the past guy, and it's like his leg falls off, or like his leg disappears, just like crawling up a fence, and then he just falls apart.
That's messed up.
That's a different movie than Looper, but now Looper's plot is the same. He's basically a hitman who goes back in time and kills people, and he ends up like getting into a fight with himself, like trying to kill himself through time. It's fucky.
I'm thinking the one with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's Looper, but like there's no like cutting off limbs and stuff.
I do
He's
actually-
No,
back
there
and
is.
people
There
doing
is.
shot-
It's in the early part of the movie there, where somebody else comes back and there's an they're just showing that as a cinematic example of what could happen to Bruce.
Oh, yeah, that.
Oh
that.
yeah, I actually
forgot
remember
about
that
part.
scene, but I didn't remember the movie.
Like they don't show them cutting off the present guy's limbs. He's off in the room somewhere else. They just show the old guy trying to get away from something, and he's just kind of like, all of a sudden his things are disappearing.
Yeah.
Sharp objects repel people, but isn't that the point? Sorry. Yes, that is the point. It repels people. It also skewers them. Here's another 5 because I'm a big fan. You should look at the Nameless King's Sword Spears from Dark Souls 3 and Very Impractical. Uh-oh.
Very brigand bronze.
Let's see. Nameless King Sword Spear. Oh yeah, that is. I mean, it's basically the excessive fantasy version of a sword staff. Like it's not super terrible. Like if it was downsized, it would probably be okay, actually. It basically depends on the thickness of the blade. The problem is it's so wide that you would have to make it pretty thin to not be stupidly heavy and imbalanced. So I would definitely suggest making it a little narrower in profile too. But you could redesign that a little bit to make it work, I think. Okay. What else we got? Trident hammer. Manly cool or stupid cool? 3 hammers instead of blades? What? That sounds really absurd. Can I find anything? Hammer, trident. No, I don't think so. No. The thing is, with a hammer compared to a spike, it already spreads out the force over a greater area. If you then do 3 of them, you have 3 larger surfaces that you strike with. It's just going to be less effective. It just dissipates the force over a larger area, and I don't think that would be a great idea. That's assuming that the quote-unquote trident is mounted at a right angle. If it's mounted like a trident and you just try to poke something with blunt tips, that would just be what?
What?
Yes.
What?
It's like the guy pulls it out and it's like weird flex, but okay.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I mean, at the end of the day, I guess even the most poorly designed weapon could make a decent club.
Yeah.
What about the Smelter Demon Hammer from Dark Souls 2, Skall? You gotta Google that one.
The what?
The Smelter Demon Club.
Okay, let's see.
Oh boy.
It's called the Chicken Wing for a reason.
The chicken wing? Oh. Oh yeah, smelter. Oh yeah. That's definitely a chicken wing. Wow. Just a grotesque, malformed, just hunk of ore with a tiny little toothpick handle. Oh, it's this huge. Or is that another thing? That's painful.
I think my favorite one
It's
from Dark
huge.
Souls.
Oh, there
I
it
think
is.
my
Oh yeah,
favorite one
that's
from Dark Souls is the big club that's literally just a giant's a dragon's tooth. You just hold it by the end and like smash things with the big end.
the smelter hammer looks like if you made it just out of foam for LARP or cosplay, that would already be too heavy. It's so ridiculously massive.
Oh jeez.
That's just
It would make a great club if you could lift it.
yeah. Lift it and just let it drop on the enemy. And the trick is you gotta lift it with a chopper. Yeah, how about no? What? New Bill and Ted movie 2020? Thoughts? I have not heard of it.
Yeah, there's gonna be a new Bill and Ted.
I have my doubts that can be pulled off.
What's that even about? I don't think I ever saw the first one.
You never saw Bill and Ted's it's like
Excellent
Amazing
Adventure?
or something? Excellent Adventure, yes.
It's
The
very
only time
it's very 90s, which makes me
Yeah.
doubt that you can really pull it off anymore.
When
It's
Google
it's also one of only 2 times that Keanu Reeves doesn't play an angry dude who just punches people.
Yes, I have indeed seen that movie and the giant thing that was in it.
I'm kind of optimistic for it though, because one, I love Keanu Reeves, and I don't know. I think it can be fun if they do it right.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's on board with it gives me hope.
Yeah, I mean, we can. There's a chance that even if the movie itself is not great, Keanu Reeves may carry it. We'll see. But I'm just wondering, what will they do? Like, will they stick to the '90s theme, or will they try to update it? That could go horrible. I mean, either could go wrong, but I don't know.
Well, if Keanu Reeves was the original actor, which I could kind of see possibility of being, it'd be really funny just to see like an updated older version of both of them where they're like old and grumpy with kids.
Well, that's the thing. But yeah, Keanu Reeves is the original actor from the first movie, and I can't remember who the other guy who plays Bill is, but they're both coming back to reprise their roles, and the concept is it's something from the first movie. They had I don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't seen that movie, which I mean it's kind of irresponsible if you haven't seen it at this point. But they have to write a song, like the greatest song ever, to save the universe, and they don't do that. So now they're like older and with kids, and they've forgotten about it, and now the universe is about to be destroyed because they were idiots. So they have to fix it.
That actually sounds pretty cool. That sounds like it has potential.
And I love the fact that it actually is tying in with the story from the first movie.
Yeah. It's not a weird reboot or anything.
Rails.
So that sounds like they may get that right, actually.
It could be fun.
On your on what you said about only 2 times of Keanu Reeves not being an angry man who punches people, did he punch anyone in Knock Knock? I know he was an angry man, but I can't remember if he punched.
I don't remember if he actually punches anyone in Knock Knock. I'm trying to remember the name of the dramatic role, the movie where he played a dramatic role. I can't remember.
I know that he slaps one of them, but he doesn't punch anyone.
To me, that counts. A slap is just an open hand punch in my book.
World War I colibri pistol. Useless / ridiculous? Yes. Short answer, yes. Tiny and anemic.
Oh, I'm waiting for someone to ask you about the punch pistol like they use in Inglourious Bastards.
I mean, it would work once.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a real thing. I don't know if it ever actually was used effectively, but it did exist.
I'm still amused that the colibri pistol was actually, at least from what I understand, they were serious about it. It was not just supposed to be like a practical joke, and it seems hard to imagine. Like,
what did they say it was for?
I think this is probably one of those secret agent kind of deals, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I looked it up. Let's see.
With the smallest cartridge ever produced in the history.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of looks like it would fit in a makeup case.
The round was not well accepted. You don't fucking say.
Well, now, like,
2.7 millimeter bullet, not well accepted. Yeah, I'm surprised.
Would it get through the temple?
No, I will say, like, pocket pistols were a thing, like especially like in the early days of firearms and like in the old West and stuff. There were a ton of manufacturers like messing with the idea of a tiny, very small caliber concealable pistol that would be meant for like self-defense, like lady pistols or senorita pistols. There were Derringers that were as small as 22 caliber.
Yeah.
And you know, they were still like some of them were designed with their own specialized cartridges that made them very impractical, but tiny pistols are a thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And some of the designs are hilarious. I think one of the best examples I've seen of one used in media is Sharon Stone's character's little pistol that she tries to kill Gene Hackman with in The Quick and the Dead.
Oh yeah, yeah. That thing is pretty tiny. But I mean, it says here the 2 millimeter colibri was designed as a lady's self-defense weapon. It was small enough to fit inside a handbag. How irresponsible is that? Like telling women, that, oh yeah, you can use this for defense. No, you fucking can't. This probably wouldn't even penetrate clothing.
You could shoot them off with it. Protect you from all the balls.
I mean,
Could potentially
say,
inflict
like,
some damage if shot at the attacker's face. Yeah, you're gonna piss him off. That's what happens.
yeah. Oh, I mean, I guess if she's very crafty and waits till the opportune moment, she might get him in the scrotum.
Yeah, yeah. Once it's already whipped out, if that's an opportune moment. Yeah,
I'm trying so hard to justify this thing in my mind, and I can't do it.
Frankly, I think you probably have a better chance trying to shove it into a guy's mouth to try to suffocate him than to shoot
Or
him
in the
with it.
eye.
Like you could,
I guess you could shoot them in the eye.
yeah. You could probably use it better as an improvised knuckle duster. Just hold it in your hand, and try to beat him with it. It's probably better than shooting the thing.
Have you ever seen them use that in Battlefield 1, Skall?
Oh yeah, I've seen a video where somebody was actually, I wouldn't want to call it effective, but it, did something with it.
The way they hold it, though, just like a thumb and a finger.
Just this delicate little thing. It's like holding a teacup. Just pew 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 pew.
This is a proper Queen's weapon.
Yeah.
I dare say myself, Jerry.
No, it's dinky is what it is.
Yeah. That's putting it nicely.
Oh.
Yeah, best case scenario, hit the guy in the eye. Yeah, I mean, it could blind someone, but I mean...
And I'll just go ahead and say, like, there's plenty of examples of the whole, like, specialized cartridge thing not working. That was one of the big problems with the Volcano pistol, the lever action pistol. It had these weird little specialized rounds that it had to use where, like, the powder charge was inside the projectile itself. And
oh, yeah.
it's just such an awful design. Like, why?
The volcanic pistol?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really...
It's the worst.
I mean... I can appreciate the thought of, okay, you don't have to mess with a cartridge or anything. It doesn't need ejection, etc. But it's such a small cavity that you can't get much powder in, and powder plus primer, no less. That's just no.
Funny enough, its biggest problem was not enough stopping power.
I am shocked.
Preposterous! Just throw it at the man.
Yep.
You don't say.
Yeah, and I mean the only way to get more power out of it would be bigger cavity. In other words, bigger bullets. So you're increasing the amount of powder, but you're also increasing the weight of the projectile. So you can't go anywhere with it.
Also, it's a lever action pistol, so you're increasing complexity with more moving parts, and it's just
yeah, and just the awkwardness.
Buy a Peacemaker like everyone else.
Yeah,
you idiot.
The
But it
awkwardness
looks cool.
having it does. It's actually one of my favorite designs in terms of looks. But I mean, having a lever action pistol is in and of itself dubious, and I mean, it's anemic and it looks awesome. I really like just the pure look, but it's such a terrible, terribly impractical thing.
Oh yeah.
And they're super expensive now. If you want to buy an antique, they're several $1,000s.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty expensive paperweight.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
But they came up with so many strange designs of super underpowered cartridges and weird mechanisms and all of that. Like the 19th century was just full of strange things.
Well, of course, this is also like still the black powder era, and the only way to get more power from black powder is you need more power powder, which means a bigger gun with a bigger bullet. Basically, the only way to get more power with black powder is to make everything bigger.
Yeah.
That's where we get like the .577 rounds and stuff from.
It's an interesting time. There are a lot of. I mean, what I definitely like is how experimental makers were at the time, because there's so many very unique, innovative designs that ultimately didn't go anywhere because they just weren't practical enough. But I appreciate how much experimentation was going on, because you don't see that anymore nowadays with firearms.
No, you have the Colt in like, what is it, the 1912, and then everything else since then has been like slightly different.
Yeah.
You mean 1911?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, occasionally still something strange comes out, but then it tends to be absolutely terrible, like the credit card pistol, which is it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. Puny little folding 22 is just no. Why?
Or that weird. Have you seen that weird rifle that was designed with like a hinge in it and a little camera so you could like peek around corners with it?
Oh yeah.
Didn't the U.S. military use something like that for a little bit?
They tried.
It's not a rifle. It's a deck that you plug a handgun into the far end of, and you can move around, and it has a.
Okay. See, that actually makes sense. That would actually work.
So yeah, occasionally you do see some new innovative designs, but just it seems not as often anymore.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. I mean, you know, to be fair, it's as a business owner, you don't really want to risk losing a lot of money on something that's very experimental and may just be a complete flop. I can see that, but I guess there were more risk takers in the 19th century. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, when you're the only gunsmith for like 60 miles in any direction, you can pretty much get away with any kind of experimentation you want.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I've got this thing. It shoots sometimes.
I love the demands that were placed on gunsmiths back in the day too. Like the reason the Colt Walker revolver exists, it's so big because some army captain was like, I need a pistol that's powerful enough that my men can kill horses with it.
With the big gun on his hip.
It's like, okay.
I only use salt and pepper. Volcanic pistols, yeah. In the age of the interwebs, you cannot screw yourself. Huh?
What?
Huh?
What? I'm not sure.
What? It's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about?
Chat is surprisingly slow today. Not a whole lot going on. But I mean, that's the thing. When streaming on the other channel, it's far less busy. But I think I can already notice a bit of a change. Like I forgot who it was who mentioned that, but somebody noticed that when live streaming, because streams get less views on average, it leads to the other videos being promoted less because of algorithm shenanigans. And I think I'm already noticing a bit of a, like, since I stop streaming on the main channel and do it here, it seems like, yeah, they might be getting promoted a little more than usual. So I think there might be something to it. It's weird.
Good.
And the thing is, on this channel, basically the views that I get on a live stream are almost the same as I get on a regular upload. So kind of works. And I mean, I still want to do regular uploads. I just haven't had time for it lately. So, and also not really a whole lot of things that I found worth making a video about, because it's just kind of a lot of just daily grind, so to speak. Let's see what else we got.
I bought the Stephen Lockwood SL 1011.
Oh, nice. What do you think of it?
I'm still waiting on it to get here, but I had him customize it a fair amount off the standard model. It should be here. I'm hoping it'll be here second week of July.
Awesome. I'm sure you'll enjoy that one a lot. What modifications have you made or done?
I changed out the pommel, the wheel pommel for a the ovoid one, for a smaller wheel pommel, similar to the one on the Fiore from Albion.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I had a riser put in the grip, and the blade profile is tapered so that it's a hybrid between the oak shot 12 and 13.
That sounds pretty good. That's a really nice thing with Lockwood, that you can actually have customization done. With Albion, the most you can do is different handle color.
To get those customizations, do you have to go to his personal website off of Cult of Athena?
Yeah.
So like, not go through.
Yeah. His phone number is on there. WeTech.
Nice.
And his turnaround time is definitely less than Albion currently. I mean, I think last time I checked, he was at 2 to 3 months. I don't know if that's changed now.
5 months now.
5. Okay, he's also got more work. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm so excited about the prospect of being able to modify and rebuild stuff in my own workshop. That's going to be so freaking awesome.
Oh, that reminds me, Skall. What was did you guys get that oil tank figured out at all?
Yeah, the thing is, we figured in the first year, we'll just leave it be for now, because it's going to be difficult to get out of the lease anyway. And if we wanted to get out of it, we would have to pay for the cost of having it uninstalled, and it doesn't really seem worth it, at least again for the first year, until we really know what the costs are going to be like and what we want to do, etc.
Yeah, that's something I was going to recommend to you if you guys want to contact me on it. But once you guys do have the money to get that replaced and switch it over to propane, if that's the way you want to go with it, like the propane tank on lease is perfect, because you can buy a propane forge from anywhere, and you'll be able to draw straight from that large tank that supplies the house and just put it into a smaller tank for the forge.
Yeah, we're not quite sure yet what we want to go with. I still like the idea of doing heat pump plus outdoor wood boiler. The only issue, of course, is wood boiler. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. My late grandfather used to run one of those, and pretty sure they had the same setup you had. There was like this big odd beige tank out behind the house. I'm 100% sure that was the diesel fuel tank.
Yeah.
I built my own waste oil heater for my shop.
There you go. Yeah, there is actually a smaller outdoor wood boiler there already that heats just the workshop. So it'll have to.
Nice.
There are some pipes that need to be replaced to make that actually functional, but we can do that. So that should be good.
Also, if you were to switch over to propane, there's another way you could heat that shop up. I can't remember what they're called, but they use them in arenas a lot on the outside. They'll have this one little pipe that goes across the ceiling or just below the ceiling, where they'll fill that up with a propane fire, and it'll just swirl inside there at a low temperature, and then it'll kind of radiate heat throughout the building.
Yeah. I really like the idea of using boilers, because then everything is connected to the hot water system, and also when hooking up, like eventually I would like to do solar hot water, and that could run very well together with that. Like, it's definitely some ideas. We'll just have to see how it goes. Like, I'm in the first year, I'm definitely a little worried about the running costs eating us up, because it's going to be substantially more than we pay now. But over time, we'll get it figured out, and optimize things. The first
And
step is definitely going to be having the insulation checked and bringing it up to the highest possible standard, because that's where you really save the most.
at least
Mm-hmm.
with that diesel heater, though, it's a lot more fuel efficient than the propane is. Like
Yes.
that lady from Ontario that I talked about, she said like it would take like furnace would kick on for like 4 minutes for
Hmm.
like every 3 hours, and that's it.
Hmm. Okay.
But it is that giant ass diesel tank on lease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the oil furnace might not be too bad if the insulation is brought up to speed. You know, maybe
Oh,
okay.
also, is that diesel tank on grass or is it on like gravel, as in the driveway kind of area?
I think it's either on grass or dirt. It's not gravel. Let me double
Hmm.
check.
I really wish people wouldn't do that, but
Hmm. It's also weird that there's no cover for it, and the home inspector actually
Hmm.
recommended covering it with something because it's already starting to rust a bit on the outside.
ooh.
And yeah, we finally have the home inspection report. It took them a little while because apparently they misspelled our name and then didn't send it out. And we had to run after
Oh,
it, but we
gee.
have it now. And there's some pretty minor things overall. It's very well built. They're just, I mean, home inspector is of course gonna nitpick everything that can be nitpicked, and that's good. Like for example, the siding outside the wood siding is actually touching the ground, which it shouldn't. So we should
Mm.
adjust that.
Yeah, the
And
concrete foundation should poke up by about at least half a meter, I think is what it's supposed to be.
mm, yep, there's one spot in particular where the wood siding extends down and touches the ground, and yeah, we'll just, I don't know if we'll remove that or trim it or just dig the ground a little bit to make space. I don't know yet. We'll see.
Digging ground's probably the quickest
Yeah,
solution there.
it would be. That would be the quickest and easiest. The workshop has an area outside that should be replaced where the siding is in rough shape. A few
Hmm.
things, you know, insulation in the attic has fallen out in one spot, so pretty easy fixes for the most part. So that's pretty
It's
good.
nice. It's nice to live in America where you can pretty much build a house any way you want.
Mm.
However, it may not be a very good house.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
that is very true.
yes, you definitely want to do it
There are,
right.
there are probably more houses abandoned and falling apart than actually being lived in America.
That seems plausible, yeah.
That's
That's how
the sad
homes
part.
makes money.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Well,
I've definitely.
America's housing market is kind of shit right now. So
Well, the housing market
So is
everywhere
Canada's.
is, yeah, it's everywhere. It's from
that's
from
that's
our
true.
European friends. I've also heard that the rents have increased dramatically, and there's not enough housing available, etc. It's just a worldwide problem, it seems.
Hmm.
At least in Alberta, like $600,000 homes are now going for in the $200,000 range. So that's good for me coming out of school. I can get a loan.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Everywhere else I've seen, it's just increasing more and more. Nova Scotia too. It seems like a good time to get into it because it seems like the market is in the upswing and it's going to increase in the future. So definitely good to buy now.
Yeah, once all
The
the
more I
experienced
look,
workers went back home to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, it
the
seems
more I look around, the more it seems like a house is never going to be in the cards.
it is quite a burden nowadays. Yeah, sadly.
The biggest thing with owning a home, though, it's when you're renting constantly for many years, you're kind of just you're losing money from your own system. When you buy
Yeah,
a house, you have something that's solid within your name, so your money is working for you.
yeah,
And when you have a house, you can get loans on other things. So it's kind of like you can run that debt cycle to your own advantage rather than it just being a burden.
hmm yeah. That's also what I've
Yeah.
been thinking. Like I'm just sick of throwing money at somebody else every month. Now, in this case, of course, at least compared to an apartment, it's not a good comparison. Like comparing a rental apartment to a house you buy, you can't really compare that. You would have to compare like a rental house to, a bought house. But either way, the monthly expenses are of course going to be quite a bit more due to heating and power and all that. But still, I mean, we're still just not throwing as much money just out the window, but putting it into something that we actually own, and it's definitely good to have if you can. But I mean, we're having to move to literally the other end of the country to make that work. That's a problem. The house prices are so ridiculous.
That's because you like the ocean side, though, Skall.
Well, the thing is, I've been looking at other provinces too, and several people have suggested Alberta, but I haven't really found a lot that's really affordable, at least half like within driving distance of the bigger cities. You can be out in the Hicks, of course, and that's going to be cheaper, but that's the case everywhere.
Yeah, the problem is when you get into this interior provinces, the majority of the population isn't necessarily, like the working population isn't necessarily in the city. The city is like its own self-contained ecosystem. Like they have their own market, their own everything. Everything on the rural countryside is where things happen, so to say. So like if you go into the city, like if you went to Calgary before the political election, you'd see a lot of houses for sale for dirt cheap. But Calgary doesn't have too much I think you're interested in. You go over to Edmonton where the economy is a little bit more favorable, the same thing. It's overcrowded, it's overpopulated, so they have lots of houses for higher prices. Then you get over to Lloydminster area, you would have seen like hundreds of houses that were really expensive going for dirt cheap. In fact, a lot of the First Nations from just north of Lloydminster came in and bought up a good portion of the city. So you're seeing like First Nations drivers every 2 minutes in Lloydminster, where you would have seen them maybe once in a day. Like it's a complete drastic change of pace.
Yeah. All right. We could have gotten something substantially cheaper by moving out further in more rural areas, but I want to be within driving distance of a city, not just for the convenience of the city, but also, I have to work with people for what I do. So be it HEMA school or just, people to make videos together with, demonstrations, etc., all of that. So it's better to have a city with a substantial population within reach, as opposed to like on Nova Scotia, for example. If we move to Sydney, which is on the top northern end of Nova Scotia, it's the prices are a lot lower for large pieces of land and everything, but it's a lot more remote. And it shows like it's, what was it, like 3 hour drive to Halifax, I think, 3 or 4 even. And it's a pretty small place. And internet speed may also not be the greatest, things like that.
There's a lot to consider.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder how well your internet's going to be, just like what you're 45 minutes outside the city.
Oh, it's pretty good actually. I've looked it up and I can get the same speed as I have here. Apparently it's going to cost like $10 or so more a month. Depends on which provider I go with. If I wanted to go with Bell, which is, they have a bad reputation for non-existent customer service. But if I wanted to, I could get fiber with really high speeds, a lot more than I have now, or I could go with what was it? What was the other one? I forgot. Damn it.
Rogers?
No, not Rogers.
Shaw.
No, Shaw isn't there. Damn it. What was it? Eastlink, I think it's called.
Okay, so it's unique to over there then, I guess. But trying to think out here though, because rural Alberta is terrible for internet. I've experienced it a long time. So like as soon as you get outside the cities, for the most part, or any actual town for that matter, your internet kind of goes to shit. I mean, my family farm is easily, like, actually, it's closer than 45 minutes to Lloydminster. However, internet speed there was usually in the kilobytes. And you'd have massive gigabyte restrictions on how much you could have.
Yeah, that's something that's also a little bit annoying about Eastlink. They have decent speeds, but they cap the upload speed substantially, just like the way it is here with the way Shaw does it. And apparently Bell doesn't cap it anywhere near as much. It's a lot higher. But yeah, I mean, I can tell they probably really don't have any customer service. I actually contacted them and asked, send them an email to ask, do they really offer those super high speeds through fiber there? Because it surprised me to see that, considering that the place is a little further out. But never got a reply. So yeah.
Have you looked at Telus perchance?
Telus, yeah, I think they are on the East Coast too. Let me see, I'm not sure. I know Shaw does not seem to offer anything there. Telus, I mean...
So if there's anything good I can say about Telus is they have some of the best customer service you can get.
Oh, really? When I looked at ISPs here, when we moved to Victoria, it sounded like they're absolutely terrible because everybody was complaining about them.
Well, it might be because they don't have a lot of business in the area, but you can go on to telus.com and you can talk with like a real live person through like a text chat any time of the day.
And what I've also noticed is with ISPs, basically, if you go by the reviews, there are no good ISPs. They all suck according to the reviews. Which, I mean, it's Canada, so there's probably something to it because monopoly and all that. The big three.
Who are those again?
Telus, Shaw, and Rogers, I think, is also counted as among the big three.
No, I guess.
And,
yeah,
and they just...
If you look anywhere in Canada, usually that's what you got.
Yep, and they just basically figure out the prices amongst themselves. And it's a lot of price gouging. It's pretty ridiculous. Like, compared to a lot of other places, what they offer here for the price is not great.
Oh, yeah. If you compare us to the USA of America, yeah, we get hosed.
Yep. But
I don't know.
I don't understand. Glorious capitalism and the invisible hand of the market. Shouldn't everything be better? Shouldn't we be getting a lot more for our money if it's just the private companies deciding everything?
No, because then you end up with the former CEO of a big telecom company that becomes a politician and decides that human rights aren't a thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Treasure pie.
It also doesn't help when all the big companies up in Canada are usually American owned, so they give people a really nice price down there, and then up here's like, hey, this is out of our range of scope. We'll charge them more.
It's like, hey, you're diet French people. We're just gonna charge you a bunch of money because we don't like you.
Let's go back.
Yep. Is it always cold in Canada? Well, depends. Alberta, yeah. Right?
Alberta, no. We're technically a desert, so we go from like super cold in the winter to super fucking hot.
Oh, I know.
We're all on fire too.
But winter is like, what was it? You still had snow in like late April or even early May? What was it? I saw.
Sorry, which?
At least Blargety complained about the snow in, I think, late April.
Oh, no, that's just weird mountain weather down by Calgary. Usually that doesn't come up further north. Like, because I don't know, like just weird mountain cycles over there. Like, they get flash floods and crap, but that's because they live on floodplains in stupid areas.
I mean, the thing's, a lot of Canada has pretty cold and snowy winters. I was kind of astonished to see that when taking the flight to Halifax and just looking out the window on the plane is like, this was what was it, on the 8th of May, and a lot of it was still covered in snow. I was looking at that. What? It's May. What is this white stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. May long weekend is notorious for being either raining or snowing.
There's a lot of tundra in Canada.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of flat area where you see nothing but either tundra or agriculture, and that's it.
I love how the only difference between a tundra and a desert is one's cold and the other's not.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. And one has cryosolic soils, which is really cool because when they freeze and thaw, they like do swirly things. Like it's like Damascus is neat.
Tundra is way more interesting than desert.
Yeah, we got sand here all the way to bedrock, and then we got bedrock made of sandstone.
Yep. It's like one's got wolves and like alpacas and stuff. The other has weird spiders and lizards, the things that nobody likes.
Yeah. Do you think the US will go to war with Iran? I don't know. I want to say I don't care. I mean, it's not something that you can just not care about, but
Why does
politics.
everybody seem to think you can offer these deep insights into like whether America is going to do this or that?
I
Like
don't know.
you're just the socio-political guru of the internet all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
Well,
I
angry clown, you got a hell of a lot more knowledge in American politics. I think you should give the deciding factor on this one.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
I will put it this way. America is only successful and happy when they are at war with someone.
yeah.
So I don't know if it'll be Iran, but I do know that I will bet money that in the next 15 to 20 years America will go to war with someone. Whether it'll be actually World War III or not, I can't say, but again, we are just a warmongering country with a war economy. We like war. It's what we do.
Notice this
So
in the entire video game series based solely on the war economy in the United States.
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
Give war a chance, Jack.
Yeah,
nano machines, son.
that seems pretty realistic overall, I have to say.
Yeah.
Why won't you die?
Opinion on old bands still going, for example, Rolling Stones. It really depends on the band. I mean, I've never cared for the Rolling Stones personally, but I think Running Wild is still doing, at least a couple of years ago, they were still putting out music, and it still sounds literally exactly the same as it did in the 80s, except higher audio quality. Like, if you
I
like
mean,
more of the same, then yeah, sure.
yeah, I mean, like if it's still good and they're
Yeah,
just doing their thing, then
yeah.
I don't see a problem with it.
Exactly.
I mean, look at
I have no issue with it
the guys.
unless it turns to complete shit. Like,
Yeah,
Metallica
like
Saint Anger. That's like the definition of turn shit.
yeah. Well, they've gotten a lot better since Saint Anger.
Oh
They've
yeah, they
gone back
have
to
for
their,
sure.
and I mean,
I'm still not a
yeah,
fan of their current style. Like it's compared to the old stuff, but
it,
it's okay. I mean, it's not terrible.
yeah, it's kind of hit and miss. But
Hmm.
yeah, but I mean, like I was gonna say, those guys are in like their 50s by now, and
Hmm.
they're still rocking out. So
Which is very impressive. I mean, especially as a
yeah,
vocalist, that must be really hard as you grow older.
I have
Yeah.
heard that the voice is one of those things that does get better with age.
Oh,
Like
Yeah, it should get a little bit deeper or higher pitched with
well,
age, I would
that's the
think.
thing.
Yeah.
It's the
hmm.
voice is the one physical aspect of the human body that really doesn't get hampered by age,
Hmm.
because you do lose testosterone in your old age, and you do. It's harder to maintain muscle mass and all that stuff, but the lungs and everything like that, it's actually still pretty easy to keep those in shape if you know what you're doing.
Hmm.
Yeah, the problem is with a lot of older people, like my late grandfather, perchance, because he had like every lung condition known to man because of dust. It's like
Yeah.
if you get any lung condition whatsoever, you kind of turn into that stereotypical old man voice, like,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing?
And what makes it
Great, yeah.
impressive, yeah, what makes it impressive for Metallica is the fact that James Hetfield is still going after like that whole time he completely blew out and like dislocated his vocal cords.
Oh yeah.
How?
It's being too fucking metal.
Yeah,
What
basically.
does that sound like?
I have no idea, but I mean, all I know is it must have been excruciatingly painful.
Yeah, I would imagine. Oh man.
Okay, now I need a Metallica line just so I can like choke act this out. So
Right?
God, please save me!
Until it's sleep.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like it happened during a concert, like on a
Oh.
live tour. So thousands of people were just rocking out like, yeah, exit, click. Like, like, Jesus, man.
That must be terrible. Did they just go on just instrumental only, or?
I assume a bunch of roadies ran out on the stage and like carried him off or something. I mean,
we now need a roadie to take on the torch.
The only person who probably didn't give a shit was Lars, just because he's a douche. But I mean,
it would have been hilarious if they had just let like a random fan on the stage into the vocals.
Right? It's like, so anybody know the songs?
Closer while you're at it, the guitarist is really tired. Anybody know the chords?
We'll give you a set list. Hey, Kirk Hammett has some stamina for a guitarist. That dude can just keep playing for hours. I have no idea how he does it.
Metal fingers.
Apparently, he's just channeling the power of metal so efficiently. Oh, yeah. He can just keep playing forever.
And then it's like the Black Sabbath guy where he has thimbles on his fingers because he actually is missing the top part of his fingers.
Maybe. Like, or maybe he's like Flea. Like every time Flea busts his thumb open on his bass strings, he just pours super glue in the cut and keeps going.
Surprisingly effective at stopping bleeding.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, let me just pour these extremely harsh chemicals full of carcinogens right into my open bleeding wound.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, Armstrong.
What doesn't kill you fills you with cancer.
They use super glue in the OR.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, it's a common thing. It's so effective at closing up wounds and lacerations, and when they go in and try and like if they don't want to cauterize one specific thing because for one reason or another, super glue, because it eventually your body will dissolve it.
Yeah,
and it's not as harmful as you would think. Ridiculously enough.
Is that a different formulation? Is that like medical grade super glue, or is it just the standard stuff?
It has to be a different formulation than what normal super glue is, because like regular old super glue that you keep in the house for stuff will give you cancer. Like it's full of extremely harsh chemicals. Now, that's not to say that there are super glues out there that are made of made of more, I guess, human-friendly chemicals. Like, there's plenty of glue out there that you actually can eat, and it won't hurt you because it's made out of more natural materials. So
Elmer's glue sandwich.
I can believe there's a super glue that isn't harmful to human physiology.
Well, there's tons of natural glues from like the past.
Maybe bone glue and milk glue.
George Washington Carver originally invented peanut paste as a glue. He didn't intend for people to eat it.
What? Well, it does harden into cement, so.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you leave peanut butter out long enough,
makes a great wood glue.
You can sand it, cut it, paint it.
Probably eat it as a peanut brittle after.
Peanut brittle. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So if you like peanut butter, you're basically eating wood epoxy.
Yummy.
Epoxy
and jam sandwich. Have you Smiths make any artistic weapons recently?
Have I?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's directed at you.
I've made a spear lately. Not like super artistic usually. Like usually when people come to talk to me, they say, "Hey, I have an idea." Okay, I'll draw it up and I'll show you what I think you mean. So it's usually my own artistic interpretation of what they're saying, and usually I try to keep it right within a historical boundary. But I think the most recent artistic one I would have done was when I adapted that 15th century German battle axe into a halberd form. I don't know. Very big though.
British Empire, good or bad? Yes. That's all I gotta say.
It's both.
Yes. Have you heard of the Iron Sky movies? I have not. What is it? Oh, actually, no, I have. The Nazi moon base thing. Oh, yeah. I have heard of it.
Nazi moon base.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've watched a trailer or something. It seemed pretty crazy.
Is that where like Hitler went to the moon and then like I will begin the Fourth Reich?
Yep. Pretty mediocre reviews apparently.
Of the Third Reich. Wouldn't that be the Fourth Reich?
That would be the fourth, yeah.
The second coming of the Third or the Fourth Reich, whichever you choose to say.
I will build a Nazi German empire. World War II happens. I will build a Nazi zombie empire.
The next Reich is going to be so powerful that it's going to skip the fourth and go straight to the...
Yes.
There you go.
It's like the Holy Reich of Antioch.
Oh, jeez.
3, 5.
3, 7.
1, 2, 5. 3, sir. 3. Good old Monty Python. Still classic. Will always remain classic.
Single thing they had on Netflix.
Yep.
I don't terribly like your tone.
Yeah, they really created something timeless there.
Why not stop him from trying to teach the other sheep how to fly and escape? Because of the enormous commercial possibilities should he succeed.
Here is Lady Antoinette hiding. Could you stand up, please, Lady Antoinette? Hello, caw! She has learned a lesson how not to stand up.
Would anyone else like to have a chuckle at my friend, Biggest Dickus? He's got a wife, you know. You want to know what her name is? Incontinentia.
Incontinentia
Buttock. Strike him, Centurion.
I just love the Biggest Dickus scene so much more since knowing that they just told the extra you can't laugh, otherwise you don't get paid. And they had no idea what was coming. It makes the reaction just priceless. The guy was trying so hard not to laugh.
I know.
That's the best.
And then they actually break down and start laughing at the end.
And throw him to the ground, sir? Oh yes, throw him to the ground.
Good stuff. I gotta rewatch that at some point.
I still cannot get someone who speaks fluent German to translate the funniest joke in the world to me.
Oh, that's because there is no actual German in it. It's gibberish.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. I was really hoping it was like actually something. Like I wanted it to be just the stupidest, mundane, unfunny joke.
That's not funny.
How do you make a Nazi cross? I don't know. How do you make a Nazi cross? You step on his corns!
Oh my.
Okay, I'm just looking it up here. And yeah, it's complete nonsense. It's just gibberish. There's just literally no sense in it. This is not even correct words. Like the individual words even aren't correct.
Oh gee. Alert.
The funniest joke in the world is
Erraten Sie was?
Did that pick up?
Yeah, I did.
I mean,
Was cut off
is
at
that
the end,
German
though.
word for hentai or something?
No, it's German for guess what? Chicken butt.
Ah, there we go.
I think my favorite one is probably the lumberjack. I never wanted to be a barber, you know. I wanted to be a lumberjack in the hills of British Columbia. The larch, the fir, the mighty Scots pine. Oh, I'm a lumberjack and it's okay. I work all day and I sleep all night. It turns out that not all lumberjacks are transvestites.
I chop down trees, I wear high heels, suspenders, and a bra. I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars. No, I think the best Monty Python sketch, besides the greatest sketch, is the Money Show. I'm sorry, I love money, all money, from the cold antiseptic sting of the Swiss franc. The leer of the lira, the call of the Deutschmark.
What happened? Is the chat dead now? Seems like it.
Everybody got bored of us talking about the housing market and politics.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it was not.
They missed out on Monty Python.
It was, yeah. It was not busy to begin with.
I've never seen a Lindy Page video.
I haven't either.
I've seen just a couple, not a whole lot.
I find it like he goes into some really good depth of his stories and he tries to make them interesting. So like, if they're a topic I'm interested in, I'll watch them, and usually I find them fairly enjoyable.
And he tends to attract a lot of controversy from what I've seen, where a bunch of people are like, oh, you're wrong about this and wrong about that, blah, 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 and they angrily debate everything to death.
Sounds about right. One that I would recommend, though, is The English Headhunter. That story was really good.
Haven't seen that one.
I highly recommend people listen to The Dollop if they haven't. If you want to hear about some of the just absurd stories from American history, like the eggnog riots and Oofty Goofty.
First tea, now eggnog.
The orange, like you remember the Irish War for Independence and like the orange and the green and everything, right?
Yeah.
Apparently that carried over into early New York, and there were orange and green riots in the street.
Fun. Well, they did have an Irish population, didn't they?
Yeah. That's the main reason, but it's just the fact that that animosity just lasted for so long. Like, do you people really have nothing better to do than just hate each other all the time?
The answer is always no.
Southern Irish and Northern Irish really don't. They absolutely deplore each other.
I guess so.
That's a sad thing.
Now for Ireland.
That's a sad thing. Whenever you ask people, don't you have anything to do except this, whatever unreasonable or time-wasting behavior it is, the answer is no.
No.
At least they think they don't.
It's sad, really.
Because this petty thing just becomes all-consuming, and they have to fight these other people, and I have to do this thing, and because it's just all they have.
We got to take back Jerusalem.
I don't care what
just
anyone
a small
says.
snicker.
I don't care what anyone says. Ideology is not worth fighting over.
No. Definitely not. There's some certain things are worth fighting for, obviously, like freedom and human rights and things like that. But just
your opinion and your ideology is not.
No.
But tea prices too. Don't forget that one.
Tea prices, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know the Brits.
We're going to fight for all those spices all across the world, and we're going to conquer most of it in the process, and then we're going to switch just to pure, unadulterated British mint.
Yep, and of course the battlefield is the internet is the grandest battlefield of them all, where lots of heroic deeds are sung, epic debate battles are being fought for absolutely no fucking reason.
Oh, the flame wars and the religious videos are hilarious to know.
Yep. On the internet, every Joe Schmo thinks he's Hans with the Flammenwerfer.
The which?
The Flammenwerfer!
The which?
The German flamethrower meme.
Oh!
Hans gets a Flammenwerfer.
What about the Fluttermaus?
No.
What could be a Fluttermaus? Well, in Scandinavian language, it is Fluttermauer.
No, it's all about the Stungerverse. You get the Stungerverse. You get the Stungerverse. Everybody gets Stungerverse.
Except Dave. He's Jewish.
Dave gets no Stungerverse.
Crustaceans are nature's knights. I would say they're maybe nature's tanks. Nature's knights because armadillos are nature's knights.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And they're pretty awesome.
Roly-poly mammal, if you push him down a hill.
Especially, have you seen the armadillo rolling into a ball? The GIF? That's the best.
I wonder how good they would make his balls, though. Like, if you just rolled him down the hill after he rolled up.
Well, I mean, if you watch the movie, the Road to El Dorado...
Oh, yeah, I know, I've seen that part.
Fantastic balls for that ancient Mayan game that's played with hips and elbows.
You know, there's some controversy over what the balls are actually made of. Some people figured they're like rubber gum put over top of a skull because it's round, so they just use that as a base.
I was told, when I went to visit some Mayan ruins in Belize, I was told that the ball was just a solid lump of gum rubber around like a rock or a skull or something. And it was extremely heavy and would often cause more injuries than any other part of the game.
Well, that sounds about right, considering the losing side was usually sacrificed to the gods.
Yeah. Like, apparently it was heavy enough that it would dislocate hips and break elbow joints.
Fun times.
I have to have a reserve team in the back just in case the first team gets killed in the process of playing the game.
Yeah, that's some dedication to the sport.
Some dedication to your weird, bloodthirsty gods.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if you literally believe that the sun won't rise unless you sacrifice some suckers, and well, and the thing, was one of those interesting beliefs where it seems really silly at face value. Like, what? Why the hell would you believe that? But it seems kind of like I can understand why they wouldn't want to stop doing it, because I mean they don't have any proof that it wouldn't, like that the sun would actually rise if they stopped. So if it's like if we stop, there's a chance the world might end. Do we really want to risk finding out if we can stop this? You know?
Well, that's something people forget when looking back at things like that in history, is that we have the privilege of retrospective.
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't.
No.
And it's this
they did the best they could at the time with what they had.
Yeah. And misattributing correlation as causation. It's one of the fundamental human problems. We see a connection where there is none. Like, okay, so we killed this dude and drained his blood and whatever, and the sun is rising. Oh, look at that.
Like, the first guy. I'm a genius. And I killed a man and something happened.
And it could be, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an instant where maybe they didn't do it at a time when they thought they should have, and something happened that they couldn't or whatever. Maybe there just happened to be a solar eclipse, and they were like, oh, shit. Like, just get back to it.
Panic kills half the village. Oh, we saved it, thank God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's how things can happen sometimes. Like you do something and something completely unrelated happen and you connect that and you think, oh, that's what it is. And in fact, they
Yeah.
do that all the time in experiments, in a laboratory setting. There've been a number of experiments where people were told that they can earn extra points during the experiment, and they will know that they get points, like a light comes on or something like that, some kind of indicator. But it's completely random. That's what they don't know. Like randomly, the light will come
Yeah.
on, and they will get points, and people just start attributing that to certain things that they did. So every one of the participants came up with a very specific like order of things that they did. Like they would do what was it, like one person touched the ceiling in certain intervals, and just a number of things. Some people just flicked a bunch of switches in a certain order, etc., etc. And every one of the participants thought they had it nailed. They At the end of the experiment they figured exactly what they had to do to cause that, even though it was completely random. They didn't realize.
Mhm.
And then they had to go to counseling to fix the damage they had done.
It's pretty interesting.
That's like how colonial Americans thought that people with tuberculosis were vampires,
Yeah.
or that tuberculosis was caused by vampirism.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know
Yeah.
in Rhode Island, one of the methods for dealing with a vampire was I mean, exhuming the corpse was always a part of the process, but
Mm-hmm.
apparently Rhode Islanders believed that eating the heart was part of getting rid of the vampire.
We're gonna eat his heart, mate.
Let's just eat this dead guy's heart that's full of TB.
Oh,
Wonder
or
why the disease keeps
tuberculosis.
spreading.
What could possibly go wrong, right?
This makes all the sense.
Could you imagine that happened in the zombie apocalypse setting? Just all the zombies just from eating bad meat.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that
We
would
we
be
have
horrific.
we have found the perfect way of dealing with vampires. Eat your heart out. Literally.
Right?
Reverse vampirism. Instead of letting them suck our blood and put it inside their own circulatory system, we'll eat their circulatory system.
Well, I mean, in vampire lore, that's how you become a vampire. You don't become a vampire
Yeah.
by just getting bitten. You have to, like, blood has to mingle.
Mhm.
So, yeah, actually, to become a vampire, you have to drink vampire blood.
Hmm.
So maybe they weren't crazy. There were vampires.
Maybe they were trying to become vampires. Maybe that was it. They're like, yeah, we're going to get some of the sweet vampire powers. All the blood's in the heart. Let's just eat that. We'll become super vampires.
Yes.
Oh my god, you people.
Yup. That's how the human mind operates.
The only way to fight supernatural beings that want to eat you is to eat them first.
Yeah,
I guess so.
pretty much.
Can't beat them, eat them.
Eat the zombies. You.
This one has a pus pocket in his chest, so I still have to eat it dead. Yes.
No.
Ugh.
No.
Well, I mean, if people actually believe that, they would probably come up with something like, oh, okay, let's just take a bit of zombie flesh and burn it, and then grind up the ash and mix it in with something else, like put it in a protein powder or something.
And then snort it like cocaine.
Yeah, zombie protein smoothie.
Yep.
I mean, it's not been uncommon in human history and in various cultures
yeah.
to actually, consume some of the ashes of your dead relatives that were incinerated, just as a because and they considered it, not doing that would have been extremely disrespectful toward them, whereas we're like, what?
The ancestors must become a part of me just as I am a part of them.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me, though, there's that cultural phenomenon in Africa where they believe if they want the power of something, they have to consume a part of what that thing has. There's something similar to that.
I mean, you are what you eat.
Yeah.
So when they make those mosquito burgers, we'll get the power of malaria.
Suction!
Yeah.
Their nose has become proboscis, and they just suck fluids out of their mouths.
Oh no.
I am becoming Brumber Mosquito.
They will develop amazing sucking powers. So in other words, porn career?
Only it'd be a proboscis, so it's kind of different.
I'm sure you'll find somebody who's into that.
I hope we're thinking about this in the same way.
Proboscis.
Because, like, if an animal had a proboscis that was going to do a dick sucking, wouldn't it have to go through the urethra? Now you got it.
Oh, that's nasty. That's all kinds of nasty. I mean, if that existed, you can bet there would be porn of it somewhere on the internet, guaranteed.
I mean, 2 girls, 1 cup was a thing at one point, so yeah.
Fortunately, I've never seen that one. I have, unfortunately, seen Goatse, though. Ugh.
You've seen which?
Goatse? Goat.se. Yeah, the dude holding
that's
open
the one I've never
his
heard of.
anus, and it is humongous.
Ugh. I've heard of the Lemon Party one, where it's like just a pop-up of a bunch of old gay men. No, I've never heard of that other one, though. Also, there's the Blue Waffle. That was one that was popular back in, fucking 2008. Make people Google that. That's bad.
Yeah, the internet has definitely produced some traumatizing content, that's for sure.
So all of my generation, too.
Can we just agree that humans are disgusting, wretched creatures?
Yes, 100%. That we can.
Sometimes we can be nice. Sometimes.
Yeah. If we have an incentive, we can be kind of nice.
When we want something.
Yes, exactly.
You either take it by force and brutality, or we try and play nice.
Yeah, we either take it openly by force or through trickery behind someone's back. That's also an option.
Yep.
It's like, hey, Native Americans, how would you like some blankets covered in smallpox?
I was actually, funnily enough, I was also thinking of the Native American example. Although I was going to say, you have no concept of land ownership. I'm pretty sure in that case you don't mind us, giving us this land in exchange for some glass beads, right? Because you don't think land can be owned anyway. So here's some glass beads.
Think about it. The Native Americans are right, though.
They were, for sure.
They didn't have really a concept of ownership in general either. There was a lot of accounts where the Haudenosaunee over in Nova Scotia kind of area. It might be a little bit farther inland, I can't remember. But they would go to European settlements any time of the day. They just kind of sneak in, borrow a rifle, go hunt a hare, come to bring it back, and they get shot because they thought they were thieves. But they just really wanted to give it back, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a much better sense of community than a lot of civilizations.
Filthy commies!
Don't you have a Soviet jacket, Skall?
Apparently.
We're exposing you!
Hypocrite!
Oh no, I've been discovered. I must flee back to Mother Russia, where vodka is always vodka, because there's no V in the Russian language, so everything is vodka.
Yes.
Vodka.
Now you know why user in profile picture is bear. He's a Russian
brown bear, yeah. Ursa.
I did not realize. Social media icon is bear. Of course he's Slavic.
Okay, now we need
took filthy capitalist pigs.
Only true Slav could grow such glorious facial hair.
We need to have a true Slav cutting session with Skall where everything is done during Slav squat.
Yeah. Took filthy capitalist pig over 10 years to figure out what bear is.
Come, Skall. Prove to us you are not a Western spy.
Swords for everyone. Swords are us.
If you were through Slav and the Russian, Skall, what is your favorite Polak? It's a serious question.
What do Skalagrin think of attaching sword blade to Kalashnikov?
Sword is Kalashnikov.
Kalashnikov that shoots swords.
Yeah.
Kalashnikov that shoots smaller Kalashnikovs with swords attached to them.
What is it with the questions today? Do you think aspartame is harmful, meaning cause cancer?
Aspartame is not harmful; it just causes headaches due to a strange tautological information.
Hey, we've looked at studies. There have been a number of studies looking at aspartame, and they have not found any adverse health effects. The only thing is sweeteners in general can cause cravings for sweet food.
Ooh, I think I remember something.
Really weird aftertaste.
Yeah, I agree.
But because sweeteners, like, they usually don't have any actual caloric value, they trick your kidney into releasing insulin, and then when there's nothing for your insulin to synthesize, it kind of gives you a headache because it's doing things it's not supposed to be doing, and it's causing an imbalance in what's going on in your body.
Yeah, there are nutritionists who contend that there is a correlation between the overconsumption of artificial sweeteners and type 2 diabetes.
It's definitely plausible. However, if you already have diabetes, sweeteners are like the bee's knees because you're already regulating how much insulin is going into your body, so the sweetener is not going to give you a headache. It's great.
Yeah.
And of course, it's always, everything in moderation. Whether it's a lot of sugar or a lot of sweetener, you probably don't want to consume it in excess.
No,
like one of my diabetic friends was like a full addict to Diet Coke. In fact, that guy like drank so much Diet Coke, I don't know if it was human, but he ended up in the hospital ventilating with a hole in his intestine that should have killed him. He was very lucky to get out of it, but they can't correlate it to his massive ingestion of Diet Coke, so we're not really sure what happened.
How much Diet Coke was it exactly?
Type 2?
He always had a Diet Coke. Like, he drank water, like he was healthy otherwise, but he just loved Diet Coke, so he just always had a Diet Coke on hand.
Was he type 1 or type 2 diabetic?
He was type 1. He was kind of like
hereditary diabetic.
Yeah, I can't remember what he said he got it when he got it. It was like when he was fairly young, maybe 1 or 2. My cousin, however, though, she was the youngest in Canada to ever got type 1 diabetes. She was like 5 months or something like that.
Yeah. Because type 1 is hereditary, so it usually manifests pretty early. Usually.
2 questions I want to catch up on. Can you recommend some dishes that make veggies fun? I'm trying to lose weight and lost 15 pounds so far, but I need to eat more veggies. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not actually a big fan of veggies, but I should eat more. I mean,
I noticed that hummus helps.
Yeah, hummus is pretty good. You can definitely make some tasty stir fry.
Like go to the store, go to your local store and see if they have like genuine like Asian stir fry sauce. And kebabs are great, like grilled vegetables. I love steamed broccoli. I don't know why people think it's gross. To me, it's delicious.
I prefer non-steamed, but that's just me.
Yeah,
I'll eat raw broccoli like as a snack. I don't know why broccoli gets such a bad rap. I think it tastes great.
Yeah.
Fuck. I just realized I haven't bought broccoli in 2 months.
To me, it's like I don't really like the stems, but otherwise I don't mind broccoli.
Yeah. Now cauliflower, I'm a little more in on. I have to chop it up and mix it in with other stuff. I don't like raw cauliflower. My dad will just sit there and eat raw cauliflower all day. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I do like cauliflower, and that's actually also a good suggestions. You can make cauliflower rice, quote unquote. Like, it's not super rice like, but you make a crumble, and you can use that instead of rice if you want with veggies, and that as a stir fry can get really delicious if you do the sauce right. Then absolutely that's really tasty. They have You can also get bags of shredded, what was that, carrot, broccoli, a bunch of other veggies, and you can just throw that in, just stir
Oh,
fry, and that works pretty well. If
one that I like, wraps. Wraps are a great way for vegetables. One of my favorite wraps is spinach, a wheat tortilla wrap. It's got spinach inside of it,
Mhm.
and some type of like any kind of really nice gourmet cheese that you like. Throw that on a grill top for like a minute or two, and then wrap that up with some vegetables like spinach and carrots or something,
Mhm.
or even better with couscous.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
mm, that's
couscous.
good. Yep.
I used to eat that stuff with mustard.
Mhm.
Odd as that sounds, but
I love me some couscous.
Yeah. Bulgur is also
oh,
really good. That's good stuff.
another thought. When I was in Sri Lanka, because everything is like they don't have meat there, so it's everything's like rice and curry. But if you
Hmm.
get some certain types of rice curries, you can get some really good dishes. Also, if you go and find some jackfruit, it's similar to the durian plant,
Mm.
but it tastes like chicken when cooked. It's
Yeah.
a really good substitute for meat.
Mhm.
Oh, tell that person bell peppers.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Bell
Bell
peppers,
peppers are
absolutely.
a great way to make any other vegetable taste good if you
Mhm.
combine them.
Yep. Yeah. Bell peppers, you can eat raw, you can eat them fried, you can eat them steamed, etc., etc. There's
You can
lots of
stuff
ways.
them, bake them, whatever you
Yep.
want to do.
Mhm. Yep.
There was this type of pepper dish that it was like a sweet pepper, but they would like stir fry it really deeply. It was almost like caramelized, and
Mm.
you could just heap that on top of your rice. And then like that was the shit in Sri Lanka. Like if I could have that every day, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you can of course also just bake some veggies with cheese. The you can argue how
Oh
healthy
yeah.
that is. Depends on the amount of cheese and all that. But
Yeah.
there's a number of ways. Oh, one thing that I also really like is just oven roasted veggies. So just cut up some potatoes and carrots and bell pepper
Hmm.
and whatever else, broccoli, cauliflower, whatever else you like, and just season that a little bit, and maybe spray a bit of oil on there just lightly, and
Yeah.
season it the way you like.
Marinate it
And
with whatever you want, like
mm-hmm.
sauce or
Yeah,
wine
yeah,
or something.
exactly. And then just throw it in the oven,
People
and
don't
that's really tasty.
people don't realize that pretty much any cooking method that you can apply, vegetables will work with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, meat is one thing, but you can do literally whatever you want with vegetables. It really
Yeah,
just if you're just a person that isn't big on vegetables, I can like understand, but there's there's really nothing you can't do with them.
yeah.
And there's plenty of recipes that you can experiment with and try to see find something that you like that appeals to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I suggest incorporating tikka masala.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
agree. There's there's plenty of ways in which you can make really tasty veggies, and it's really just a matter of just look up some recipes. If because if you've never been super fond of veggies and don't really know a lot of recipes, it can be difficult, yeah, but there are
Yeah.
so many options. You just got to look it up and see what you like, and you'll quickly figure out something. One thing that I, for example, also like to do, if you just want something quick, just a quick fix, just open like a can of soup and throw in some extra veggies. Sometimes what I do if I want something super quick, just a can of soup and a can of, for example, peas and carrots or green beans or whatever. Just throw that right in there, throw it in the microwave, done.
Take vegetable
Hmm.
soup and add more vegetable.
Yeah, because some of the
Right.
soups are kind of don't have a whole lot of stuff in them, but
Yeah,
it
they try
depends.
to keep them fairly price efficient, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cost effective.
yeah.
Yeah. Mushroom soup and then add all the mushroom.
Oh, and what I also like is if you have a contact grill, just spray it lightly with oil, the cooking spray, and just slice up some potatoes and just throw them right on there, and there you go, fries.
Yep. I mean, Ireland literally lives on potatoes, so
Hmm.
Yeah, that's why they
they know
have so
what's
much
up.
heart disease, though.
They know what's up. It doesn't help that potatoes are extremely starchy. I've got like as I've gotten older and I've uh especially when I learned like how to actually cook, like proper cooking, I've kind of learned that uh like russets, typical white Irish potatoes, are really boring when you experience like purple and red and Slavic yellow potatoes.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me
Also,
wrong, they're still great and they go well with a lot of recipes, but just as themselves, they're way not as good as like red Sebagos or other uh, types of potatoes.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough.
look, that's just kind of like the British fascination with bland things, though, I think, because they were originally
Yeah.
Peruvian, were they not? And then they took them over, and then the Irish said, "Hey, these are great. So we'll make some spuds for you there, Mr. Landlord. And hopefully you won't deport me to Canada, right? Right?
Or
Mm-hmm.
Australia.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you
jeez.
could definitely have potatoes in a very bland way, but you could also prepare them all kinds of ways. I mean, if you make natural fries or poutine, it's gonna be very tasty, even if it's just standard white
Hmm.
potatoes. It's
Yeah.
Thanksgiving potatoes, where it's like mashed repeatedly with butter.
mm,
It turns to like a
Like
paste instead of a potato.
like I
mm,
said, like grilled kebabs, just replace the meat chunks with chunks of potato,
mm,
and then add your peppers and carrot, whatever else you want to put on there.
mm-hmm. Yep,
Kebab.
all a
It's just a
preparation
weird
method.
word. It's a weird word, kebab.
Kebab.
Hmm.
Kebab, boy.
Potato carbs aren't bad for you? No. I mean, again, if you eat excessive amounts of carbs, and yeah, sure, that can be an issue. But generally, carbs, I mean, simple carbs, highly processed stuff is, of course, not good for you. Pastries and all that. And
The,
sugar. It depends on the carb.
yeah.
But complex carbohydrates are among the healthiest things you can have, really. And,
The,
with
the biggest
potatoes,
problem with potatoes and most root vegetables is the starch.
mm,
Well, starch
Potatoes
is
have a lot of starch in them and
it's
uh,
like the lightest end of the
cholesterol.
complex sugar.
mm.
Yeah,
So,
potatoes
I
are also
mean,
very high in cholesterol.
It's that it's definitely a moderation issue to an extent. If you eat
Yeah,
tons of the same thing, then yeah, that's not gonna be great. A varied
yeah.
diet is
Like, don't
definitely
yeah,
good.
don't get us wrong. Potatoes are good for you.
Hmm.
It's just don't eat too much of them.
Yeah, and
And
also the
eat the
form.
skins too.
It depends on which form. I mean, if you eat nothing but French fries, then yeah, that's not gonna be good.
Yeah, like don't leave. Yeah, seriously, leave the skin on. It's
Yeah,
good
that
for
too.
you.
Hmm.
Or what we could do is we
It's
could
also
peel
where
a
most of the
potato.
flavor is.
Mm.
Hear me out though. If we peel a potato, boil the base of the potato, stir fry the skin peel,
Yeah,
cut that up into like a garnish, put that back into the potato, mash it with like butter or whatever oil you prefer, which is like the super mashed potato.
well, I mean, I make mashed potatoes. Well, but most of my recipes are come from this giant composite recipe book that my grandmother put together over like 50 years. So uh, there's like three or four different mashed potato recipes, but the one that I like the most is the one where it's just skins and all. You just mash everything up, get your salt and butter, and boom, you're good. And
Yep.
for people who don't know, mashed potatoes and cream potatoes are not the same thing. They are it is
Mm.
a completely different recipe.
Right, because cream potatoes are the ones with Thanksgiving where it's like butter and cream and they're like
Mm-hmm.
super white and fluffy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Though if I
They
could
are.
have cream potatoes all the time, I'd be the fast bastard on the earth.
Oh, I would eat cream potatoes every day. They are delicious.
And then you get that nice chunky gravy.
Gravy is
It's like
always
a,
good.
like a it's like a thing of debate in my family because my grandmother makes chunky gravy. She doesn't stir the flour in properly, my mother says, but my dad loves it because he grew up on it. So my mother's like, that's not proper gravy at all. But my dad just doesn't give a shit.
there are actually people who try to argue that gravy has like etiquette, like wine, like what you're supposed to serve different types of gravy with, and I'm just like, no. There's white gravy, there's brown gravy. You can make it smooth, you can make it chunky. It does not matter. Just stop.
Although, if you
There's
really
two.
get into it, I bet you a bison gravy that's all grass fed from like natural, normal bison foods, not like modern grain foods, would taste very, very different than a normal cattle gravy.
Yeah.
Not that Skall cares; he doesn't dabble in the fine culture of meat.
The
No.
fine
He is
culture of carcinogens.
he is a peasant.
Anyway, there are 3 more questions here in the super chat that I gotta catch up on, which are not questions that I'm fond of. I gotta be honest. I mean, thank you, but it's not really my favorite kind of thing to talk about. For one, opinion on the current Canadian Prime Minister.
Let's not talk about him.
Yeah, no, I would
Yeah.
still. I still kind of feel like it may still be a less shitty deal than Harper was, but I'm not really happy with him. So can we just not talk about that? Opinion on the new James Bond film? I don't care, frankly. I've never been a James Bond fan and haven't really watched a lot of them, so
Sacrilege.
Yeah, I know. And
Blasphemy.
the most overrated metal band, in your opinion? That's a difficult one. I can't really think of one that I find super overrated necessarily. That doesn't really deserve that. If I had to pick one, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'd go with Korn or something because I'm not my thing.
Yeah,
But
I've gotten to the point where I think that I've started to realize that music is so subjective
oh yeah,
that it's really I have gotten to where I find no point in getting bent out of shape over anything having to do with art or media.
absolutely.
Because I mean, even the things that I think are like super objectively bad, as long as someone, even if even just one person enjoys it or finds merit in it, then it has merit as an artistic form, as far as
Yeah,
I'm concerned.
basically, the only thing I would say is there are certain quantifiable standards of quality. Like, for example, when you
Yeah,
make music, there's certain compositional elements and audio quality and all of that. There are certain things that have to be in place for it to be good, and not
yeah,
you know what I'm saying. There are certain standards of quality
yeah,
for sure, but outside of that, and even those standards are very debatable. So
yeah,
it's so opinion based,
yeah.
and quite
As
often,
far as the consumption of media goes, it's totally subjective.
oh yeah, and quite often I can't even really put into words why I like or dislike something. When it comes to music, I'm like, oh yeah, I
Right?
enjoy this, or I don't. If somebody asked me, why do you enjoy this song, I'd be like, uh, because it sounds good and I like the
Right?
lyrics. And, you
It's like
know,
I'm sorry I didn't take 4 years of music theory to
yeah.
concisely explain to you why this is good. Like,
It's almost like describing scents. I mean that I find even more difficult. But
mm,
it's yeah, you can't necessarily unless you've studied it, you can't necessarily really put it into words. And also, what I don't like is when people act like they're a great critic and they have the qualification to trash something or just tell you why it's shit, and then you can tell that they have no clue about music and they're just spouting their personal opinion, and then
Well,
they
yeah,
think,
critiquing is supposed to be like giving criticism in a constructive manner. It's never
right.
supposed to be just
hmm
trashing something.
yeah,
And like the whole point of being a critic of something or a reviewer is to provide consumer information.
hmm
And it's like, yeah, it's fine for a reviewer to give their honest opinion about something because if it's someone you trust, you're going to listen to them and go, huh, well, if they didn't like it, they share a lot of my interests. So I'm probably not going to like it as well. But if you're that interested, you owe it to yourself to just give it a try and decide for yourself. And a good reviewer understands that. That's why Anthony Fantano is such a trusted name in music and critical analysis of music, is because he understands the role of a reviewer, and he understands that everything he gives to people is meant to be consumer information and provide constructive criticism where necessary, and just basically give his opinion. Like, there are things that he likes and doesn't like. That doesn't he doesn't use that to say, oh, you're not a music fan if you like this. Like,
Oh
no,
yeah,
it's just
that I hate
yeah.
so much when people are being snobs, like, oh, what bands you like, and you say, so, that's not real metal or not real whatever the hell. It's like, no, you're just being a elitist douche
Yeah.
about it. And
Yeah. It's like
the thing is, as far
being
as
such a gatekeeping asshole.
yeah, and as far as the concept of something being overrated is concerned, I'm not even sure you can really. That's even an accurate term. I mean, something can be overrated if there was like a massive media push for it. If there's been a lot of money put into promoting something that's actually garbage, then yeah, okay, that's objectively overrated. But quite often, like if I think about something like whatever, the fucking Kardashians, which that is definitely falls under my definition of overrated, but it's for me personally, it's my personal opinion that this is
Yeah.
overrated because this is something that I, to my sense of aesthetics is garbage and trivial, and that's maybe the only thing where I can say you can make an objective claim if something is really kind of brainless, super trivial, doesn't really have much content, but at the same time,
Yeah.
do you always have to expect everything to be highly cerebral and then have deep meaning? It's not really necessary, right?
Right.
So even that.
But I like the meeting.
Art needs to stimulate your mental faculties and make you a better person and a more ethical person. That's probably what the Greeks would say.
Perhaps.
Art is for the intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
You filthy peasants from the low town of London would never understand it. You're not allowed in, even though you can pay the entry fee.
It is okay to just enjoy things.
Yeah,
Like
Sean says
rocks.
he loves Fallout 76 when the majority of the world hates it. Yeah, some things are just, some people freak out over it, and there's also certain cultural tendencies where people focus heavily on something that's just not fashionable at the time.
I think Mr. Regular of Regular Car Reviews said it best in that the internet and upvote and downvote culture has pretty much killed civil discourse by reducing everything to either vehement agreement, like just complete enthusiastic agreement, or go die in a whoring accident.
Yeah.
In a whoring accident?
Yeah.
I accidentally stuck my dick in her ass, and she slapped me so hard my neck and my T4 vertebrae snapped. I've been paralyzed for 3 years.
It's like, how did he die? A whoring accident. But yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, lads, I think I'm gonna call it a night.
Okay.
Good
Good to have you here.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Later. Who was the other person that jumped in a minute ago? Is she gone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she is.
Oh, I thought she just pops in to say that one thing, and then it's like, nope, peace out.
He did.
Well, she was in the chat for a while longer, but yeah, it's out now. Yeah, whoring accident. That's definitely a thing. I thrust so hard that the bed collapsed and broke my spine.
The woman was perfectly fine. However, she continued to whore for 3 years afterwards.
Like the one,
But I mean,
the one Jason Voorhees kill where he, like the two are having sex and he just jams a machete in and just folds the bed. Just Oh.
What? Just grabs both bedposts and folds it?
Yeah, he just folds the bed in half with the dude in it.
Freddy versus Jason, his first kill is he like stabs this dude through a mattress like 17 times. Then he grabs the bed frame and like folds it in half on top of the guy.
Yeah.
I would have just folded it. I wouldn't worry about stabbing it, but
I mean, I love slasher movies, and if I had to pick my favorite, it's still Jason, just because the Friday the 13th movies, even more than the the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, do have creative kills, which is the hallmark of a slasher film, but they get kind of just stupid at some point.
Yeah.
Whereas I've always found Jason's kills to be both creative and really entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. I'm
yeah,
also...
I love serial murderers.
I'm also one of the few people who apparently who enjoyed Jason 10 or X, whatever. I
love Jason X.
Yeah, it was like him being all cyber enhanced was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, I would love a sequel
Cyber
with
Jason
him.
Was great.
Sequel with Cyber Jason, that would be pretty badass.
Yes.
Did they want to make an indestructible killing machine, or what was their intent there?
At some point during the course of the movie, they deal with normal fleshy Jason, but they established that they have like nanomachine technology that can heal people by rebuilding them. So his dead body, because apparently Jason operates under the same principle as the orcs from Warhammer 40k, where apparently there's some like deity out there that just loves him so much that he has ridiculous luck, and his dead body falls on this machine that has those nanobots, and the nanobots don't find enough genetic material to rebuild him with, so they branch out and start using metal to rebuild parts of his body, and the machine basically turns him into Cyber Jason.
Okay.
Yep. That was pretty badass. Unfortunately, that happens pretty late in the movie, and you don't see too much of Cyber Jason, so that would definitely have been nice to see more of.
Yeah, it's very underutilized.
When he basically becomes Senator Armstrong.
Pretty much. Undead Senator Armstrong.
Opinion on current South Park, Simpsons, Family Guy. I hate to always be the guy who's like, I don't know, I don't watch it. I used to watch The Simpsons. South Park, I've never really watched much. I think I've watched like a total of maybe 4 episodes, 5 at most. And I wasn't really big fan of it, I can say. Simpsons, yeah, for a time I watched quite a lot. I haven't really watched any of the more recent episodes, which I'd like to, because I've seen snippets here and there, which I like that they updated it. Like it's their references are now up to date and all, even though it's weird because nobody aged a day within that universe. That's just always the weird thing. Like whenever a series runs for this long and there's no character development or change or anything there, and it updates, like you can tell that it's now the 2010s and whatnot, but they didn't actually really change. It's kind of weird.
That kind of leads into a very morbid fan theory where because Springfield is so like irradiated and filled with toxic waste, all of the people are basically like
immortal,
been mutated and turned immortal, so they can't age. So like baby Lisa's gonna the baby is gonna stay a baby forever, and everybody like doesn't really die and they don't really age. Like it's kind of horrific.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I understand. I understand the difficulty with that, because if they decided to have Bart and Lisa and Maggie grow up, then it's gonna be different characters over time, or at least it's going to change the show substantially and the dynamics of it, and a lot of fans probably wouldn't like it, but it may be good at some point to move on. I don't know. And as far as Family Guy is concerned, I've actually never watched I know I'm one of the few people apparently who've never watched it, but yeah.
I mean, those shows are a situation where I can appreciate it and understand why people like it and enjoy watching it. I've never gotten that much personal enjoyment out of it.
It's just the references. Like, if you don't get the references to any three of the things, you're not going to find it funny.
Yeah.
True.
Basically, yeah.
Family Guy kind of frustrates me because there are times when, like, they don't do they actually do like a really good joke, like without relying on a cutaway or something like that, and it's genuinely funny, and I'm just like, what? Why can't that kind of writing be more consistent in the rest of the show? I don't know.
Oh, and one thing I can say, we have a bit of a personal tradition of watching Treehouse of Horrors, the Halloween Simpsons episode every Halloween. That's usually pretty good. I find they tend to be a little better usually than the regular episodes, or at least the ones that I remember.
I agree with that.
Opinion on weapons in the Dead Rising games. They're mostly absurdly comically over the top and ridiculous. I mean, all the things that he straps together and somehow makes work and is somehow able to swing around without, at least I don't think he's supposed to have superhuman strength. That's pretty weird.
You'd have to watch the Death Battle episode that has him in it, I guess.
So yeah, overall pretty silly.
Apparently in his universe, with enough duct tape, anything becomes a weapon.
Yes.
Even the duct tape itself.
Yes, you tape a duck to a stick with a duct tape.
I was about to say, it's kind of redundant because, duct tape in and of itself is the ultimate weapon.
Yeah, you just gotta pull out a strip of duct tape and roll it up so you have a string to hold it on, and you use the duct tape roll as a flail. Done.
There you go. I'm just envisioning beating people to death with a roll of duct
tape. Or you use 2 rolls of duct tape as knuckle dusters and just punch them.
There you go.
Maybe if we use enough duct tape and get enough mass on the duct tape, we can use heat to solidify the duct tape and make an axe.
Maybe if you make like a giant duct tape ball and heat it up enough and like vulcanize it to where it becomes solid, you can like use that as a cannonball.
Yep. I saw a video once where somebody used duct tape to make a wheel. And like as it was like being driven around, it kind of like solidified the outside edge.
Yeah.
Neat. I mean, you can do a lot with duct tape, for sure. Maybe you could, like, with a hydraulic press, just compress it into the super massive object.
I love how we're talking about we're discussing duct tape with Canadians involved, and one of my favorite shows is the Red Green Show.
Remember, if she doesn't find you handsome, she'll at least find you handy.
I love that show.
Oh man, I used to watch that before I went to school.
I don't care if it's completely inaccurate and offensive. To me, that is Canada. That is my interpretation of Canada.
Honestly, rural Canada is basically that. Like, it's
you are all my people. I've always meant to ask you guys who are from Canada, like, how accurate that show is.
Well, to give you some insight, you could say a lot of the people in my family are like, what's the main guy's? I guess his name is just Red Green.
Red, yeah.
But Howard would be my dad's uncle.
Harold?
So like, Harold.
Harold, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like your. I love how Harold is like just the stereotypical Poindexter, you know.
Well, I don't know. It depends on who's got the name. Like, my middle name is Harold. My great-grandfather was Harold. He was so
I
stubborn,
meant
he came back from the hospital dying of lung cancer just so he could die in his own house.
geez.
Wow.
I meant more.
Yeah,
I meant the character, not necessarily the names association.
Oh, okay.
I have to agree with Nay out there. Got to run. My hunger is exceeding me. Yeah, I
Yes,
have the same
yes.
problem. I've been starving for a while, but it's just been fun to hang out with you guys and chat about all kinds of crazy shit.
Right?
So, but it's been 3 hours,
It has been 3 hours.
Yeah.
and yeah, I should definitely go get some noms too.
It's
But
been 1 week since you looked at me.
but yeah, thank you for hanging out. It's been
All
fun.
right. Been a pleasure.
And thanks
Yep.
everybody else for showing up. Thank you for all the super chats and all of that. I will see you, well, maybe next Saturday. I don't know yet if I'll have the time, but we'll see. So have a good one, guys.
All right. Later.
Peace.
Later. Take care.